What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Buttes and Shoots Unfiltered. Hey, today it's episode 15. We have a pretty amazing guy, right? 13 Fox, JFO, extensive combat experience, wounded in action, has a really cool story to tell. Um, we were truly honored to have Justin Freeman, right? So he goes by Freebird on TikTok. So he's if you want to go check him out, right? He's an amazing dude, good guy, and I'm totally honored to have him on here. So thank you, Justin, for coming on here and taking time in your night to sit here and talk with a bunch of old guys about your story and what you dealt with, although with the tradition and transitioning out and all that kind of stuff. So thank you so much. Chris, do you have anything for Justin?
Hey, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's a pleasure to have you. We haven't had an FO yet, so you're going to break our seal there on FOs. And being two old infantry guys, between Jerry and I, we love our FOs, man. Love our FOs. But before I hand it over to you, I'm gonna pay our pseudo bills, even though we don't get any money for it. For those of y'all listening out there, we're proud to announce that we've increased our partnership. If you listen to the last episode, we announced that we partnered with Chosen Flags. That's chosenflags.com, where you can get any of your flags made. We've also partnered officially with Tip of the Spear Landmine Removal. So if anybody remembers episode 8 with Ryan Hendrickson, doing a lot of good work out there in Ukraine and helping remove landmines out there with his nonprofit. We've also partnered with the New England Battalion. That is a nonprofit that uses hockey and sports to help veterans up in the Northeast. And then Warriors Crown. That's another gentleman working veteran-owned business on helping gentlemen get their hair back.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, check them out. That's, again, landmineremoval.org, nebattalionhockey.com, chosenflags.com, and warriorscrown.com. All right, brother, I paid the bills. It's over to you. Let's hear some war stories.
Oh, Lord. All righty. Well, this is my first podcast, even though I run my mouth on TikTok a lot, as you all said. Freebird, that was a whole thing of having a hand surgery and being miserable, and for some reason just started saying military stuff and like duetting, and it just kind of started going. And then I told my story a couple of times, and then it really started to pick up steam. So it's that's been an interesting journey. But so I was born in South Carolina to a very young mother who ultimately, I will get into her story just a smidge, but she was in the Pentagon when 9/11 happened. But she was 17 when she had me. I was put up for adoption when I was 2 days old. When I was put up in Florence, adopted by a family who took me from Sumter and ultimately moved me into the Appalachian Mountains. And I grew up in a little tiny coal mining town called Wise County. And it is right on like the Kentucky, Tennessee, like right there in that corner of Virginia that everybody says is Southwest Virginia versus, no, it's not part of West Virginia. It is the furthest part that you can get away from all the Norfolk and the madness on that side. Yeah. They don't claim us, but it is what it is. So grew up there. I was athlete in high school, wasn't very studious. And 9/11 happened when I was a sophomore in high school. I remember sitting in biology class watching the planes hit. And, you 16-year-old kid, you're just a smart ass. And it had not registered with me at that point the impact that event was going to have on my brother's life, my family's life, and what would shape me ultimately moving forward. So my older brother joined first. He joined the Marine Corps. Initial invasion, Fallujah, did all that crazy shit. And then when I graduated, right before I graduated, I met my biological family. Oh, wow. So I had an aunt that got on a blog. Let me go ahead and date myself a little bit. Got on a blog called Mothers Adopted Out of South Carolina. And ultimately, my biological mother had posted on there and said, hey, you know, when I was in 1986, like I adopted baby Edwards, and it was supposed to be an open adoption. The adoption agency kind of fell apart because shit was a little shadier back then. And, you know, it is what it is. So my aunt found her, and right when I turned 18, I got a call, you know, hey, come over. Went over, and she gave me a birthday card, opened it up, and had a name and a phone number in it. And so at that point, I got on the phone with her, and come to find out, you know, it was kind of in the blood, because I was already talking to a recruiter at that point because I was getting ready to graduate. And making the decision was just kind of a teeter-totter of when. But got on the horn with her, and come to find out, after she graduated from high school, she went into the Army and was stationed in Germany. She ultimately went to Haiti when all that shit was going on, like back in the day. Mm-hmm. And she was a cryptologist. And ultimately, through some reserve and National Guard, and she got stationed at the Pentagon. And on 9/11/2001, she was sitting at the window from the corridor across from the one that got hit.
Oh, wow.
So smashed in the window on her. And the wildest part about it was, and, you know, I didn't understand what she meant until later, but she told me that the day that she was ETSing, or she was getting out, was that day. Like, she was going around getting stamps to clear, because she was switching over to the civilian side to be a civilian in the Pentagon. You know, same office, same everything, and probably $40,000 a year more.
Right. You know? Yeah.
But yeah, she ultimately did not get out that day. She was the first person I ever heard the word stop loss. She was like, I did not get to get out that day. She did not get cut loose. I think it was like until a month later. They actually said, you know, all right, like, we'll sign your paperwork and everything. But she also had to sign a thing that said, we will not leave work if this ever happens again.
Yeah.
So that was, that kind of like sealed the deal at that point, you know, in my brain, like hearing her say that stuff. And my adopted family, like, they were a good Christian family. And I was raised like I got my ass beat like I should have. I was able to run wild like I was, you know, like we all got the opportunity to. And nobody did anything terrible to me when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a blessing ultimately that I landed where I landed, because that's the way it works for everybody. So, so I was on the phone with her, and, you know, she was kind of going through the family, and then she was like, well, I'd like to meet you. And she ended up coming up to where I was at in Virginia, and down to where I was at in Virginia, because she was living in Manassas. And I met her April the 8th. Holy shit. Odd correlation of dates that I just put together in my head. I met my biological mother and my wife on the same day.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
On the 7th of April. But I met my wife 3 years later. Or no, 2 years later. Yeah, 2 years later. 2007. Yeah, 3 years later. Anyway. So she came up, met her. Ultimately, when I graduated high school, my entire biological family came up here.
Oh, nice.
And I say up here because I am like right over the state line in Tennessee where I grew up. So they reeled me back in. Yeah. But so got the opportunity to meet my grandfather, my grandmother, like an aunt, cousins. You know, I had like 25 people watch me graduate that were no further away than a second cousin, and it was really cool to have like that whole extended family come together.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, when I graduated, I left with her and was gone for a month. She took me to DC. I got to go to the Pentagon. She showed me around. I got to talk to a Coast Guard recruiter. I was on probation at the time, so they were like, "No, thank you, but you go talk to the Army."
Yeah.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
I was drunk in public. I didn't want to be in public. It was one of those things. But so got to go see the Pentagon, all that jazz. And then I got to go to South Carolina for a week and literally meet all the people that I would have grown up with.
Mm-hmm.
And got to hear like, well, yeah, of course we knew about you. Like I sat behind your mom in math class. Like,
Jeez.
yeah, it's a little much, but whatever. So got to do that. And then she took me out to Vegas and showed me around. And she is very much a traveler. I'm her only child. Something happened during the birth of me that I was stuck, and the way they got me out messed something up, and she was never able to carry children beyond that point. So I'm her only biological child. She has raised 4 cool stepchildren later on down the road, but I'm her only biological child. Now, my biological father, I am the oldest of 7 kids by 7 different women, and I have a sister that is 6 weeks younger than me.
Jeez, dude. Holy crap.
Yeah, that son of a bitch got his ass shot anyway.
Oh,
So,
shit.
yeah, he got murdered in January of 2008.
Damn.
Yeah,
That was
he's a
busy.
shitbag.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But, it was what I met him. And the thing about it is he fell victim to, like so many, the opioid epidemic.
No.
He was a lineman and was up in a cherry picker and fell out, and a piece of copper went through his shoulder. He broke his back, got on Oxycontin, and went from a Cobra Mustang and a Harley and all the chicks to went to prison and ultimately was hooked on pills and everything else. So ruined him. And he had just gotten out of prison, and he was living with a dude in a halfway house, and he pissed in that guy's Cheerios some way, shape, or form, and dude shot him in the chest with a shotgun. So,
wow.
Yeah, I had just gotten stationed out in Colorado when that happened, but we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so all said and done, I come back after being with her for the 3 weeks, about a month, and come back to Wise, fiddle fart around, finally get to the point where I'm like, all right, I gotta go. Gotta go.
Yeah.
So September 14th, 2005, I rolled into Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and was watching Katrina happen as I was sitting in the transition chow hall.
Yeah.
So went through an OSIT as a 13 Fox out there in Fort Sill.
Just a real quick, Sandra. What made you want to pick fire sport? Like, what was the reason behind that? And why did you want to go?
So, well, originally I actually wanted to be a Cav Scout. The fair winds pushed me where I needed to be, but whatever. Ultimately, though, I wanted an airborne contract, and they were like, "There's not airborne Cav Scouts."
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But so I was like, well, what is the equivalent? I was like, I don't want to be an infantryman. I was like, I want to be something that is an individual based, like I am responsible for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, here's this. And I watched a little video, and they were like, oh, on the radio and out and forward. And I was like, cool. It's like, can I have an airborne contract for that? And they were like, yes, you can.
Nice.
So,
hell yeah.
3 years, $15,000 signing bonus, and got airborne school, and Fort Bragg.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, it was literally I had, because a guy that I went to high school with, it was a couple of years older than me, had already joined the Army, and he was a Cav Scout. And all the shit he was talking about sounded pretty cool. So I was like, well, shit, I'm going to be a Cav Scout. And I knew I was going to join the Army. And before he joined, the recruiter that put me in was a tanker. And he had me like that close to convinced, like, you should be a tanker. And I was like, I should be a tanker. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, I shouldn't. No.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, ultimately, guy at MEPS, he was like, I think this is the closest thing you're going to get. And I was like, well, shit, good enough for government work. Sign me up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And off I went. That was about the gist of the particulars of it. So,
So did you? So you went straight. You went through all your training and everything like that, right? And then you reported to Fort Bragg. So how was that? Because Fort Bragg's his own different world, man.
Yeah.
Like because we talk about it. We talk about it all the time. Like you can't. Paratrooper culture is different than the regular Army. Like there's just different lifestyle here, you know. So I don't know.
It was being bathed in fire for sure.
Right.
You immediately come on that post and realize that you are this big and you don't matter for shit, because the people walking around you have got badges that you've never seen before. Private Joe Snuffy don't know what Halo is and all this other shit. I'm still trying to figure out what these other unit patches are, you know?
Yeah.
So seeing these SF dudes and stuff at Bragg, and then of course realizing what else was there, and I was like, oh shit.
Yep.
I got a lot of catching up to do. So that was, I reported there. I reported Fort Bragg March 23rd of 2006, because that weekend I went home because it was my birthday. I turned 20 years old when I reported Fort Bragg.
Oh, wow.
I was 2 days shy of 20 years old when I reported to Fort Bragg. So
yeah. Do you guys, when you guys go to like the FOs, right? Do you report to the artillery battalion, or do you go report to, just for everybody out there, just so you like know the process of what FOs like 13 Foxes do? Like, how do you get into the infantry world?
So at the time, they had just like reconfigured the whole BCT concept, right?
Okay.
And they had added what used to be 3 Panther, now is 573. Freaking cross between Cav Scouts and infantrymen. Airborne Cav Scouts. Holy shit. I was immediately like, I was like, well, I got lied to, bigger and shit. I am that dude. Damn. Get there and like half the battalion is Cav Scouts. And I was like, but ultimately, right before I got there, I would have reported to 319th, which is the artillery battalion that is 3rd Brigades. But where they were getting ready to deploy, they had already kicked all the fisters down to the battalions at company level. So I reported to my FSNCO at the battalion level, and then he ultimately brought in my company level FSNCO, Sergeant Dan Lang.
Okay. All right. So you show up there to, I think it's right. You said 2nd of 505. Is that right?
Yeah, I was in 2505. Yeah, 2 Panther.
Did you like were you going straight into training, or were you getting ready to deploy? I can't remember. So
funny, but I was actually just told my wife this story the other day, and she was like, "This is the shit you should talk about on TikTok." So as soon as I got there, we went to JRTC. The Joint Readiness Training Center down there in Louisiana, because, you know, training for the desert in the Louisiana swamp is the best thing to do.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's so stupid. It's just like,
well, it made a lot more sense when I went back down there from Colorado to go to Afghanistan. So, you know, whatever. But ultimately, I went to JRTC for the first time underneath an FO who was trying to be chaptered out of the Army for being fat.
He was trying to be chaptered.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. So ultimately, his name was Sergeant Godwin, and God bless this dude because he did set me up for success.
Okay.
But me, high-speed little Freebird paratrooper shows up, and they stick me with the dude that is literally stuffing his face with Burger King, like, I'm trying to get out of the Army because I don't want to go back to Iraq. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
So this is who I went to JRTC with the first time, and I thought, like, who did I piss off from the get? You know what I mean? Like, what did I do? And got down there, and from the second that we got down there, he put a radio mic in my hand, and he made me talk as if I was calling in artillery, rotary wing, fixed wing, all of it. He was a awesome FO when it came to knowledge. He was just one of those guys that he was full of the book.
Yeah.
And like I said, he went with Old Ironside to Iraq, and whatever happened there. And at the time, I was naive as a young private and thought no further than, well, you know, maybe this guy could have seen some real fucked up shit and he does not want to go back to Iraq. And maybe it's best for all of us that he doesn't. You know what I mean? Now, that was not my thinking at the time, but hindsight and a little bit of growth, 2020. It is what it is. So ultimately, he gets me down there at JRTC, though, and pushes me to the front of the line while he was eating my food. But and I'm not kidding, not kidding at all. He was like, let me get that peanut butter. I need the calories. They got me sweating out here. I'm gonna be too skinny when we get back.
That cornbread.
Yes, on the Bible. This dude, it was a lot, but it gave me the opportunity to show my platoon like Private Freeman was worth it. And I ended up getting like an Army Achievement Medal and all kinds of shit because I almost had a heat stroke, but I didn't quit. So, you know.
Hey, Justin. So, like, for everybody out, like 13 Fox does, like you mentioned earlier, is like, you're like the conduit to the fires, to artillery, to air. Like, you're the guy on the radio, calling in, like you're coordinating all that stuff, guys. So, like, that's what he did is, he was a separate entity within the platoons. If the PL needed some kind of fires or some kind of air, they would look over at Justin and be like, hey, I need you to get on the radio and coordinate this. So, like, when you went into that company, Justin, how did the platoon receive you? Like, were they, I mean, the first time you'd have seen an infantry platoon or been with guys, because they're a whole different group of people, especially paratroopers. So, like, how was that? Like, what the fucking dudes are nuts? Or
so, well, all right. Number one, you can turn my country bumpkin up about 15 notches from then. Like, I was just so twangy and country and simple sounding that they just got a kick out of that part of it. And they could tell that I was just like a good old boy. And I was a fister. So as a fister, you belong to the fisters. You're not an infantryman. And I love that. That is, I was like, well, that I have landed where I wanted to land, because like, I am not one of those people that getting hazed and getting, no, that ain't my cup of tea. Leave me the fuck alone. No, like, I'm going to throw hands. Don't touch me. Like, leave me alone. What do you need me to do? And, I did a little qualifying while we were down there hanging upside down on a tree, all that shit. But for the most part, they received me well because they could see that I was trying to be good at my job. And I was respectful to the people that I needed to be respectful to. And I stayed out of people's way. And when somebody needed me, I was there. And I showed the PL that, like, so one thing as a fister that you end up doing a lot, of course, is carrying the radio, but you end up carrying the radio for the PL too. I mean, I don't know how many times, like, I've doubled up on radios because PL was like, I need an RTO and you've got a radio anyway, so why don't you just add another one? Sure. Yeah, because they're light, whatever.
So the thing about that is, I have always found, and I don't know why, and Jerry will back me up on this. It seems like the FO's radio, or the FO the FSNCO's radio, always seem to outpace our radios, hands down. We could be sitting there, and they're literally, for our listeners, there is no difference between the radio that I, as an infantry officer, need to use versus the radio that my FS NCO or my FO uses. But for whatever reason, it just never fails. Murphy's Law, right? The infantry radio is going to shit the bed, and I'm going to have to turn to Justin and be like, hey, brother, guess what? I need you to call for fire here, and then I need you to go over talk to Sergeant Major because we need a medevac and we can't talk. And then I need you to come back over here because I need to talk to the Ford companies as well. And so you end up becoming a jack of all trades.
Yeah. And when you show that your willingness to put up with that shit,
Oh, yeah.
and I will tell you, the fisters know how to lick the antennas. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You put a little extra spit on there.
Oh, yeah.
You're absolutely right too, man. Like, as attachments that are coming into infantry platoons, like, because we had a guy on here, Doc from GWAT Goons. He's got a podcast too, but he was a medic, man, and he would say the same thing, man. He's like, hey, look, I wanted to be a medic. That's what I wanted to do, but I had to prove myself, and the platoon just, they all came around me just because I was proficient at my job, man. So, I mean, for anybody that's doing that, you're about to jump into that world, man. Just go into that and be good at what you do, and you'll be accepted, right? And that they'll give you shit, you'll give them shit, and you'll go through some trials and shit like that. But like, just being proficient, man, runs a long way, man. And just be reliable, right? Like,
just be good at your job and be a good dude, and they'll pull you in like a brother.
So
be willing to do the shitty stuff when it needs to be done. But I will say that as a 13 Fox, 30 plus months deployed, never one time did I burn shit.
And that's a true statement. You don't want to burn shit. Nobody knows. For everybody's out there, I won't get into that, but just look it up. Burning shit in deployment, you'll see what I'm talking about.
It's a fucking real thing. It happened.
Why it was an accomplishment for me to be able to avoid it.
So how long were you at Bragg before you guys jumped on a plane to head overseas?
About 90 days. I reported, so like I said, March 23rd. Well, probably, no, it's like 5 months. So March 23rd, and I was boots in the desert on August the 8th of 2006.
God, dog.
Yeah.
Jeez. Going into that too, man, you must have been like, shit, dude. This is the real deal. Like, this is what I'm going to be asked to do some things that, if I've, just got out of training fucking 90 days ago. Like, it's like insane. So.
And I think that one of the things that my dudes realized during that short time at JRTC is I kind of had a knack for just doing it. You know what I mean? Like, we did a Black Hawk air assault, and I couldn't get my damn seatbelt to buckle, and I was on the door. I was just kind of holding on, and they were like, oh, shit, but I was just like, well, it'd be all right, So
yeah.
They figured that I wasn't going to be, like, too big of a shit stick once we got there, so.
Gotta be a good communicator as FO too, man. Can't be kind of awkward, So
yeah, well, and I'm a real personable, like, talking to people. I've never met a stranger. I don't care like what color you are. My first roommate at Fort Bragg was black. He was from Baltimore, and it was funny because they asked me when they dropped me off in my room. They were like, "Your roommate's black." Okay, cool. I was like, I didn't have any black people where I grew up, but okay.
Yeah.
And they were like, you're not going to have a problem with that, right? And I was like, no, why would I have a problem with that? And they were like, well, the accent and shit. And I was like, y'all some stereotyping shit. Good Lord.
Yeah.
No, let me pull out my clan card. Jesus, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
guys, where'd you guys go? Where'd you guys go in deployment?
So the Bravo company of 2505 deployment was unique to everybody else. So we got detached from the battalion flag, and we got sent up to crit with 319th.
Okay.
Because in 06, Tikrit was Saddam's hometown. So there was a lot of money there. There was a lot of influence there. So it was a battle space that artillery guys could transition into and be a patrol asset, an element, and like a presence. And, you know, like adding some infantry dudes in there, you teach them how to kick into some doors and shit. And then it was like send them on their way. So from August until October of 06, we were in the Tikrit battle space, just kind of doing the meet and greets, like taking the CO out. Yeah. We ripped with the 101, so we ripped with the Rakasans.
Yeah.
But so from August to October, it was, you know, I think that we a couple IEDs here and there, you know, like a couple little pop shots in town. Like I said, it wasn't really that much of a AO to be in. But then we ultimately got to do, I believe it was in, I want to say late September. We got to do a joint operation with, there was DEA there, CIA, like it was a money thing. And we were hitting these places simultaneously during the day. Mm-hmm. And they had 10th group there. They had Peshmerga there, the Kurdish guys.
Yeah.
I got to sit on a Humvee, like pulling guard, you know, at night. It was on radio guard or whatever. And have a conversation with a Kurdish Peshmerga dude over a cigarette that was kind of a lot of nodding and you know. We tried and we passed the time. I don't think we really accomplished anything beyond like we're both here and we're both trying to eliminate the same problem. So there, that's good.
Yeah. How long was it before you actually started? Did you make your first call on the radio to actually, kill something or do whatever?
So, Black Widow is what we did in Samara. So we ended up, the battalion was in the Samara battle space at Brassfield Mora. I believe it was the big cop there. Okay. But we went there for Black Widow, and it was a big like clearing operation. And my headquarters company, like, so just to put some where I was at this point, once we got into country, they took all the RTO FOs and pulled them into headquarters. And we turned into the drivers and the gunners for the CO and the First Sergeant and the XO.
Yep.
And so that was my initial deployment, is like I was gunning and I was driving, and I think like one time I talked to some helicopters.
Right.
And that initial time, like, it wasn't anything crazy. And there was also just not a lot of assets to grab up there because it just wasn't that hot of a battle space.
Right.
But so Samara heated up and we did Black Widow. That was 10 days. And my headquarters company, that's why I said that about headquarters. We were just out, like my CO was just kind of bouncing between the platoons and, just doing his company commander thing. And we got into a peach grove, right? And it was like right at probably about an hour until dark. So it was kind of getting around dusk, and there was a shovel hanging in a tree. We dismounted, and the mortar platoon sergeant went over there, and he gets the shovel, and he was like, "Why not?" And he goes, wham, and it goes clunk. So he just literally dug like that much, and it was a cooler full of AK-47s and ammo. Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we started looking around and like started moving out and kind of spreading out into this peach grove. And mind you, we're a headquarters element. So you only talking about, I think we only had like 18 people or something.
Yeah.
So we started spreading out. Well, I was like kind of looking around and just kicking leaves basically. And all of a sudden I kicked a freaking mortar and there was a huge pile of mortars in front of me. And I was like, holy shit. All told, we found the largest weapons cache to date in that peach grove. We had to call another company because we were like, we can't secure this, and we have found something that somebody right now is going, shit, oh shit, they found it all. They found an anti-aircraft gun out there. I've got pictures of, it was like 3 high and probably 30 long of 155 rounds.
Damn.
And I mean, this was just the stuff that we found kicking dirt. Like we didn't even dig. And when they set that thing off, it shook. It took them 2 days to decide that they had dug it all up.
Okay.
They sat out there for 2 solid days digging to find that shit. And we got to take all that cooler full of AKs and everything, and we got to take it out to the lake, the shit lake behind Brassfield Mora, and we got to burn through ammo, and we got to shoot PKMs and PKCs and AKs. It was fun as shit. Yeah. But, I mean, my little headquarters, element found this freaking huge cache, and didn't nobody say shit about it from that point forward. Not a thank you, screw you, fuck you, not a nothing.
Yeah.
I just found 120, 120 mortar rounds. Ain't nobody going to give me nothing for that. I can't get an ice cream.
High five.
Yeah. That is what being in the 82nd Airborne gets you. Nothing. Not a damn thing. You did your job. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Suck it up, buttercups.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And ultimately, so at that point, that was when we really started getting into this whole being detached from everybody. We started getting pulled out, and that's when we went to Turkey Bowl in the Diyala province, and that was after Black Widow.
Okay. Yeah. I was in Diyala, man. That place sucked. It's terrible.
So I did Turkey Bowl 2, which that was a mess. And then ultimately I did that summer Arrowhead Ripper.
Yeah.
The shit with 25th, shit with 1st Cav. We were the main assault element for all of those. If I'm not mistaken, Bravo Company 2505 is authorized to wear 4 or 5 different combat patches because we got orders from Colonel Townsend, who was the brigade commander for 2nd ID.
Yep.
Those were the striker guys that chased that, what ultimately the element would become ISIS. That same group of fighting ideology is what was in Baqubah and Diyala, and when we went to Baqubah, I mean, we basically got briefed this is the Woodstock of terrorists, and you're not a terrorist unless you come to Diyala and fight the Americans, and that's kind of what it was, and it was it was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah, we were there too, man. We were in operation, a mission set where we would do air assaults and stuff. We would be the outside of where you guys are working, and we would hit some of the targets as you guys are going into Baqubah and stuff. So that's why that's when you start me talking about that, I'm kind of associated with Arrowhead Ripper because we were a task force Falcon. We did everything air assault kind of thing. We were these black patches or whatever. But you're right, man. I think most of our casualties we had was in Diyala. It was that's where we took most of our KA. So
hey, Justin, before you get to Arrowhead Ripper, I'm an idiot, I guess. I don't know what Turkey Bowl is. Can you break that down for me? Sorry.
I thought football. I was like, football.
I was like, okay, I played in Turkey Bowl.
Yeah, I mean that's what everybody thinks, and I think that's why the algorithm has never let my story go anywhere, because they're like, why are you not talking about Thanksgiving and football? So ultimately, Turkey Bowl 2 is what I was a part of, but in the Diyala province, which is the farmland side of Baqubah.
Yeah.
there was a bunch of fighters out there that 573 had been into it with, and they had started pushing. And basically, Diyala is so close to Iran, is like they were like these terrorists were basically kind of weaving back and forth, and they would go into Iran, and they knew like the Americans are not going to go into Iran. 573 actually almost had an international incident because they did drive into Iran. You know, and it was right there at that mountain range, and they were like just IRGC across the top of the mountain range, you know.
I had something similar in Afghanistan where we ended up in Pakistan with one of my platoons. Oops.
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah. Fortunately, when we went out there in Diyala like I said, 573 did an operation, and they decided that they did not get their feel and that they needed to expand and do it in a larger way because they did it as a battalion element. And instead they wanted to bring in 1st Cav and everybody else. Okay. So basically we spread out like a big, almost like a Desert Storm element, and just kind of pushed and encircled this big, huge, it was like a Carez kind of system where they would, with the water, irrigate the irrigation ditches. And they were real deep, and they would run in those irrigation ditches, and that's how they were moving fighters and equipment because you could barely see them. Well, ultimately what we did is we pushed and encircled them and got them all in that area. And then for 6 days we sat there, and they just absolutely bombed the piss out of it. We got stuck there for the first 3 days just sitting in the mud because the air wouldn't clear, no medevac, no nothing. Medevac was red, like we couldn't move, you know. If people don't know, like just one of those in case people don't know, when you go out, if you are out and medevac goes red, it is either stay exactly where you are, or if you are close enough to base, like you better just put your pucker on and go. Because at that point, you no longer have the ability of the helicopter ambulance. Nor do you have the ability to call for helicopters as the 13 Fox. So my assets just went away. You can't see nothing at that point. So we sat out there for like, God, 3 or 4 days. It was the most miserable shit ever. Like just eating MREs and trying to ration Copenhagen because we weren't supposed to be out there that long. Like, you know, everybody brought a little bit of extra. You planning for a little bit of extra, but not that kind of extra. So I was over there like begging the first sergeant for a dip of Copenhagen. I was like, please, just, I'll take yours. Just give me yours.
Gross.
Like, I'll take your recycle. Like when you're done, you put it in that can and I'll take that can. Like, it was bad. And we had ultimately hemmed these poor dudes up that were just happened to be at this place when we got there. And so for 4 days, these dudes sat like in a little old corner of a mud hut under guard at all time, of course. That was fun. You know, and our interpreter was a Kurdish Peshmerga guy from back in the day. Like he would tell us stories about coming over the mountain and like coming down into Baghdad and killing everybody, and you know, it's crazy shit like that. So he was a quality interpreter, and he was like, these guys really are not. They're not like a threat. They're not a problem. And we were like, well, we just can't cut them loose. Like, sorry, they're stuck. So that was. It was a pretty successful operation. I mean, it turned into something that from that, though, the regrouping that came and the fighting that started in Baqubah after Turkey Bowl is,
that whole, I mean, that's that I just can't say how crazy that place was. Because, I mean, if, like, you look at the terrain that was there, like when you talk about like the pond grows, the heavy pond grows that they like to hide the blue barrels and put shit in, and you're digging through that, and you know that's the first time that we ever saw hostages and all that kind of shit. Like we didn't see all that down in Baghdad, man. You started running into some non-traditional fighters, man, and shit that you were like, holy shit, like like anti-aircraft teams.
We found a torture house.
Yeah, like shit like that. You would find stuff like that traditionally you wouldn't find somewhere else. And you're like, holy shit, what is this place? Is evil as hell. So, Yeah. So you were there, and did you actually call some birds in or do anything with that? During that
So,
operation?
well, let me back up a little bit because there's a piece in between Turkey Bowl and actually going into Baqubah the next time. So at the end of Turkey Bowl, like we're coming into December, and ultimately we are after Turkey Bowl, we pack up and go back up to Tikrit. And when we got up there, they were like, "Hey, you are going to start clearing into the Adwar province, which was the Palm Grove province of Tikrit." And hadn't nobody been out there for a minute. So that was bad. Yeah. We ended up setting up what we ended up calling Patrol Base Woodcock, because on March 11th of 2007, while 1st Platoon was out doing clearing operations, they found an IED and they started chasing the command wire. You remember like when that was a thing? Like, oh, find the command wire. I was talking to Kai, was on station. That was the first time that I talked to birds like in country was at like when that day was going on. I had Kaya was on station and I was talking them through, like they were flying low and they were going on these command wires. And what it was is we were stopped on the road and we were in a daisy chain.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Our Dukes weren't letting them go off. Turned out there was a little shepherd boy that was like right over to our back corner that had a clacker over there, just going to town the whole time we were sitting there, and nobody noticed it until one of the EOD guys saw the kid.
Oh, wow.
But what ended up happening though was 1st Platoon dismounted, went towards the mud hut thinking there was a trigger man out there. And when they got to the mud hut, he stepped on a pressure plate at the door and it cut him in half and sent half of them up on the roof and the rest of them somewhere else. And them boys ended up having to pack him up in a body bag, and we sat out there for 4 hours while they had him in the back of a Humvee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, you know, Dan was the only guy that we lost on that deployment, Sergeant Dan Woodcock. And that was rough. Yeah. Because those guys in 1st Platoon, like, they were really close. And seeing that kind of pain.
Yeah.
I think it's hard, man. Like when you go all through there, right? And you're like doing all this stuff, you're doing all this training and stuff, and you're out in country. And then when you take your first casualty, it really hits you, man. It's like for everybody out there, guys, it's like you're doing this stuff with lasers and shit and JRTC. You're doing all these fucking things, and it's everybody goes home at night. But when you first take, your first casualty, dude, it really it's something that hits the team. It hits everybody. You go back to the fob, or you go back to your cop, and you guys just all think through it, man, because it's like it's real. Like that's it's real. Like the next day you could go out and. Diet River Valley was huge on pressure plates and house-borne IEDs, man. So
there's nothing you can do to prepare for something like that, and it's and then we've talked about this at other points in time, but then sure Justin will talk about it here in a minute, but then you're expected the very next day, if not the same day, to turn around and Charlie Mike, right, continue mission, and it fucking takes a goddamn toll on you. And it's one of those things that if you've been in the military long enough, odds are you've had to go through something like that. And if you need to talk to somebody about it. Because that is, it sounds a little cliche, but for those of us that have done it, been through it, that is probably the best thing you can do, is to sit down and talk about it and share that with somebody that maybe weren't sharing that exact same piece of ground with you, but they've gone through it and they know what it's like. Because again, there is nothing in this world that can prepare you for that. And it's just something, unfortunately, Justin's dealing with, we're dealing with. And so, it's hard.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Because you got, like you said, Chris, mission doesn't stop, and somebody's got to, I don't want to get into myself too much, but I had to be a platoon sergeant because my platoon sergeant got killed. So like somebody has to step up into that because the mission still has to keep going. So
Yeah.
it just sucks, dude. But yeah, so you guys push through
Yeah.
that. I don't want to get you stuck on that one, man. That one's a
Yeah,
that was a
no,
hard
it's
one.
all right. The the one good thing about it is like I have learned that talking through those every time I'm able to talk through that one more time, like it's a little bit easier to talk about it the next time.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it becomes something because like those memories become like frozen in your river of thoughts. And until you can unfreeze it, like by talking about it, like and get that memory back out there in the river and let it go on, like it, you're always got that emotion with it. And you got that like overwhelming, like that is where the true, like, the shell shock PTSD, the having flashbacks. That's what I'm trying to say. Like that, when that flashback is there, because that's stuck, like you can still taste that shit and smell it. And it's, and fortunately, again, I have, through taxpayer dollars and a lot of good therapists, every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, I talk to a lady from the VA. So no Freebird here, especially comes off as batshit crazy because I can talk like through it. But truly, like sitting down and talking to a therapist was, of course, on the road to many things, but saved my life. So
I also think, Justin, too, it's just good, like, do things like this. No, not necessarily like the video recording piece, but like if you have buddies and friends, man, like it is more important now to, as everybody transitions out of the Army, like understand you still got a network of people. Like I just transitioned a year ago, but I still have guys I can reach out. Justin, I met him. I can reach out to him. I can reach out to Chris, and I can have a conversation and open up a little bit to these guys. So you got everybody out there. You got people to talk to, man. It doesn't necessarily need to be like the doctor or somebody, because sometimes I had a hard time being related to some of these people that the Army would send me to. It was like, this person doesn't have a fucking clue what I'm doing. But the best people that I had were my friends, right? So
I think that one of the biggest pieces that I could tell somebody who was transitioning out of the military, and I say this as, the lonely dude on the low totem pole, but you start to learn that you meet people not based on rank, but experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're looking for people that have just had the same experiences. It doesn't matter what rank they were, doesn't matter what they did, who they did it with. Like, when you go through certain shit, that's a baseline of knowing, like, all right, these are my people. Yeah. And that was something that I had a hard time with when I initially got out, was like, I still saw rank when I was talking to people, and it made me kind of like, standoffish, like, well, sure. This is a colonel or a sergeant major or whatever. And finally getting to that point where understanding, like, yes, I respect everything you did in the military, but we are the same now in the civilian world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a hard thing to wrap around.
And there's some knuckleheads out there, guys that are sergeant majors and colonels that, like, hey, I'm a sergeant. Like, bro, you're Jerry and Chris, right? So,
exactly.
Well, you're also isolating yourself when you do that.
Stop doing that shit, man. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, the civilian world doesn't really care about what you did, like who you are, like what rank you are. Like they care about, you're a veteran, but man, it does stop going and carrying on that shit. Yeah. But that shit, I'll talk about that for hours, but whatever.
Well, man, it makes it difficult because, again, you might be shutting off a guy that needs to talk to you. Like, you may be the only person that is available for somebody in that moment as a veteran to talk to, and you gonna act like a dickhead because you outranked him at one point in time in your life. Like, that is not what the veteran community is about.
Nope.
Yeah.
And but anyway.
Yeah. So did you guys go into Dial after that, or Baqubah after that, or?
Well, we set up a patrol base ultimately in Adwar, and did. Let's see. We were there April, May, and then we went to Baqubah on like June 14th.
Mm-hmm.
like a couple weeks into June. We got word at the end of May. It started kind of like everybody started kind of whispering that we were going to go to Baqubah, and we were all like, "Is Baqubah?" And they were like, "Well, that's the city that is part of like Diyala that we were there in Turkey Bowl." And then we started finding out like what was actually going on and why we were going there.
Yeah.
And what had happened was 2ID, the strikers, had been chasing the same group of fighters basically from Baghdad. I think they went down into Taji and ultimately ended up running them into Baqubah, and they took heavy casualties. A guy that I grew up with, went to church with, he is now a colonel. His name's Colonel Price, Tim Price. He was a lieutenant. And when you said that about being a platoon sergeant, I was in the chow hall at Warhorse, and I heard, "Justin Freeman, the fuck are you doing here?" And I turned around, and there was Lieutenant Tim Price. And we got to talking, and I went over to his chew, and like I called him Tim, like around his dudes, and they all looked at me like they wanted to eat me. And I was like, my bad, Jesus, sorry. Like, grew up with him. He's just Tim to me. But so got into SIR mode and found out that his company commander had taken one to the dome piece. And that is why he was standing in as the company commander.
Yeah.
Baqubah was some of the worst fighting nobody's heard about.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to get that story out, man. Like, I'm trying to put it out because I don't think a lot of people know about that kind of Baqubah and that time, that area. But yeah, man.
No.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I ain't gonna lie. But
well, and so after we did all the clearing in Adwar, like one of the coolest things that happened to me when I was in Adwar is one morning after we had cleared this like apartment complex thing, we were out on just like an overwatch down by the river, and ultimately I was looking through a RAS system, that green big giant box on top of the Humvees.
Yep.
And I saw somebody crawling, and I was like, there's somebody crawling over there, like definitely crawling. And they were like, no, there's not. And got the platoon sergeant up there, and it was on an island. And when the sun came up, we had found a boat that was chained to a telephone pole, and shot that off. We had a high-speed lieutenant ranger type. Went to the University of Kentucky. His daddy was a 2-star general, though, so he was Lieutenant Farrader. Love that dude. But his little high-speed ass stripped down, jumped right in that Tigris River, and started swimming with a rope tied to him.
God,
and he went over to the other side. Yep. He went over to the other side. So, he jumped in upriver, swam over, went all Ranger buddy. Good for you. Like, awesome. And I mean, you could just see it all over him. He was so fucking excited that he got to do that.
this platoon sergeant's like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, we got over there, tied that off, roped the boat to it. A squad went over there, and there was like a little tiki hut looking thing. I ended up going on that boat and carting 155 rounds across in that boat, across the Tigris River by myself, like this, because EOD wouldn't come on the island. They were like, if you want us to blow those 155 rounds up, you're going to bring them over here. Well, they set fire to that tiki hut when they were done. And so rounds started cooking off, and shit started going boom. And they found, IED making material, like it was a whole thing. We were over there for like half the day, absolutely wore myself out. And that was, again, one of those times where it was like, thanks for doing your job, asshole. All right, cool. All right. I just took some, I don't know if these 155 rounds are stable. I don't know how this works, but you're going to load them up in this boat, and you're going to make me Private Freeman carting them across the river. Okay. Yep. That's all we're doing, I guess.
Yeah. That's crazy, dude.
But that was like one of the last things that happened in Adwar, and then it came down the pipe that we were going to Baqubah. And at that point, too, something that changed for me is I went from being at the headquarters element to I went down to 3rd platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I went down there and linked up and put on a team with, that was one of the pictures that I sent you guys, me sitting on that couch.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first night of Arrowhead Ripper.
Yeah.
And that was me and the guy that I was on a team with. He was my FO. And so we ran with 3rd platoon for that entire thing. And we did 5 major operations, I think. From started in June 19th, I believe, is when Arrowhead Ripper kicked off. That was initially 6 days. And, you know, I think one of the hardest things about the whole Baqubah and Arrowhead Ripper and stuff is the briefing that we got prior to going into Arrowhead Ripper about what the possible, like, here's how you can die, basically.
Yeah.
And that list was real long, and they could have just simply said, like, there's a good chance there's a lot of you who are going to get fucked up on this.
Yeah.
And there ain't a damn thing we're going to be able to do about it. You know, and they had trip wires going across the road. So you couldn't drive a Humvee down the streets because it was a north-south running what they called New Baqubah.
Mm-hmm.
And north-south running, it got wide up here and narrow down here. And we started at the top and street by street, east to west, we started clearing door to door, just over and over and over. And so initially we went into it with, there are pressure plates like in the roads. Like you can't just walk. Like you can't come out of a compound and go out on the road to the next one. We had to clear by going over the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 24 hours, we were climbing over walls between compounds. And for people that may not know, in Iraq, like everybody is nut to butt in those cities. But there's a wall that separates like everybody's house. Yeah. So it's their own little individual compound. So you had to get through like a gate and then you were at a door a lot of the times. So the going over the walls part was to avoid keep going out those gates because they were supposed to be rigged to blow, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, if you open up the wrong gate, like it's going, I mean, you talking about basically Connex doors going to come blasting off at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When we operated there, dude, we just blew up buildings. We didn't even mess with it anymore. We just dropped bombs.
So like initially what is happening with this? So initially it was, they did a huge bombing campaign at the far north of the city. And they dropped, that was probably the most nerve-wracking ride into an operation because we got taken in by strikers. And sitting in the back of that striker watching that screen, the White Hawk, Black Hawk screen,
yeah.
So I can see the road and shit. And all I see is these huge holes. And they're driving around them. And we're just doing this. It's like we're snaking through IED Alley. I mean, that's all it was.
Damn.
Like, I don't know how we got inserted that night and didn't hit an IED. Like,
yeah.
Somebody's grandma somewhere was praying real hard a whole lot, and everybody's grandma must have been praying. Yep. Because, like, I mean, it was that bad. Like, that was probably the first time, honestly, like, no shit, when I was in Iraq, that was the first time that I was actually, like, scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, I was scared.
Yeah.
Because of what it had been made to be and what the proof in the pudding was. I mean, they weren't making this shit up. Second ID had come down there, and I think they had already taken like 30 casualties by the time we got down there.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that first morning, freaking first Cav was down there with a Bradley on an outer cordon, and they hit a deep buried IED and it looked like God punched the bottom of that Bradley. It kicked it up on its edge. And we had to come down there, and that was the first like assault that we did of that operation. Like, they brought us down there because the IED had a wire, and they said that over there's the trigger man. Bring down like the Bravo Company 2P. So they took down 2 squads of 3rd Platoon, and I went down there with them. And we snuck around into this building, and they lined up and dropped every gun they had in every window that was available, by God, and they just started shooting and lit that thing up. Yeah. And I was on the horn with Apaches, and I was talking to the Bradleys, and it was intense. Yeah. And ultimately, I think that they went over there and cleared it, and they found a piece of somebody or something. I don't know. But, you know, getting pulled down there like that and having to be in those vehicles, like moving along the edge of the city like that, because the whole first row of buildings that faced the main road that went in and out of Baqubah were just riddled with 25 Mike. And I mean, they just blown out about every building on that first drag there. Because I mean, they were coming in there and they were burning tires at night. First cab wasn't able to go in there. They just kind of said, like, we're not doing this. Mm-hmm. And so for a little bit there, like, there wasn't nobody driving up and down them roads, and they were taking tires and burning them and melting the pavement and scraping the pavement off and burying IEDs and then putting the pavement back on top of it. Mm. Like, that was the kind of shit they were doing in there. And but we did 5 operations when I was in Baqubah.
Mm. Yeah. And when we were around that area, man, it took you 2 hours to go 50 meters, man. Like you had to. Yeah. It was insane. Like, it brings up a lot of memories for me as well. So, yeah, you're working. It's good.
Yeah, it's the autofocus.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
So you did the 5 ops in Baqubah, and then how long did you transition back to the States, or did you? And then how did you end up in Colorado?
So, all right, let's back up a little bit and fill in some mid-tour leave real quick, because mid-tour leave is a staple story of my story. Yeah. All right, so I go home on mid-tour leave. I land on the 24th of March of 2007. I turned 21 years old March 25th of 2007.
Oh,
jeez.
So I timed that shit out right. So I went from August to March on the deployment because I wanted to go home after I had turned 21.
Right.
And so for 2 solid weeks, I put out like a call on MySpace. Daddy's coming home, ladies. Because I'm from a little small town in Virginia. So every female that I could think of. And then I typed in a couple and I was like, female, under 30, single. Yep. Let's see what MySpace has got to offer. And up came my wife, or what would be my wife. And it turned out that she actually was my buddy's boss. Like, I was staying with him when I came home on mid-tour leave.
Okay.
And so the last night that I was there on mid-tour leave, I threw myself a big going away party because all my friends were poor. They couldn't afford it. So I threw myself one, bought everybody's booze and shit. And I invited my wife down there. And she was like, kind of hemmed and hawed. And I was like, come on. And see, ultimately, I had reverse catfished her. Because I had these shitty, bald-headed, like, you go from the States to 7 months deployed and have got some good prison workout time. Like,
oh, yeah.
Daddy came home different on mid-tour leave. So she walked into my buddy's house that night and was like, damn, all right. So the night before I went back to Iraq, I met my wife. Full and met her. And then I went back and disappeared for 2 months. Like, I didn't have any kind of communications with anybody because we were setting up at patrol base.
Yeah.
And we just didn't have shit out there. Well, we eventually got some computers, and I checked my email, and I had an email from her. And it turned out that she was like, I'm going to have that again to make sure it was what I thought it was. And she waited for 8 months. And by the time that I came home in October, we had already talked about getting married.
Damn.
I'd already given her my credit card and said, we're going to go on a trip, book one.
Oh,
so
God,
we went to
dude.
Antigua in the Caribbean. Oh, yeah, I was private. Oh, Lord. Nobody told me no. They were like, yeah, sure, it sounds like a good idea. She's hot. All right, cool. So
There's no way this goes wrong. No way.
yeah, not at all. So had a trip to Antigua planned, and I got back on October 17th, and she was there waiting for me with my biological mother at the airport. And my biological mother said, hi, hello, got me a cheeseburger at McDonald's, and then she went on her way because she knew that there was nothing about that situation she needed to be there for.
Hey, Justin,
So-
how did she link up with your biological mother?
What? Okay. So over the
You
course
guys are
of
deep.
these months, well, she met my entire family while I was in Iraq.
Yeah.
Okay.
My would-be or is going to be wife, she had a little boy that was 3 years old, my stepson, Mason. And like, she just, I think like my family invited her to come to like a dinner.
Okay.
And she loved them. I mean, you know, they just kind of like, they loved her. And so she'd already met my family, and her and my biological mom went to the strip club when they went to Sharky's when they got there. And if you've been to Fort Bragg, you know what Sharky's is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, they went to the strip club, which of course my wife, soon to be wife, was like, that wasn't very impressive. I was like, no shit, welcome to a military town.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so October 17th, came back to the States. I asked her to marry me on Halloween weekend. And December 13th of 2007, we got married on the beach in Antigua. And our 18th wedding anniversary will be this December.
All right.
Hell yeah. Fast and Furious, bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because if she would have put up with me for any period of time without a ring on her finger, it would have never happened. I got her sealed in, and then she was like, whoa, what is this shit?
Yeah.
You're nuts.
True love, man.
Oh,
True love, dude.
right.
Yeah.
But
You
yeah,
gotta
so the reason that I ended up in Colorado to answer that question real fast is because I was originally, when I went on mid-tour leave, I was talking to our re-enlistment guy, and he had gotten me a spot with the 173rd. I was going to re-enlist to go to the 173rd.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was like, all right, man. He was like, I got this for you. And I was like, all right, I'll be back on after mid-tour leave, and we'll get everything taken care of. I come back on mid-tour leave, and I was like, so I met this woman, and I don't think I'm going to be able to go to Italy. I need to stay in the States because she's got a little boy, and there's a custody battle that's going to ensue. And ultimately, I was like, let me go to Colorado, because I had heard like Fort Carson was like one of the nicest bases that you could be stationed at anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, like stay in the States for one more deployment. And then ultimately I was going to drop my Q course. I wanted to go to SF.
Yeah.
So, of course, their universe had different plans apparently, but so got married in 2007. At the end of 2007, we were on a month leave after deployment, and then went back, cleared, and went to Colorado, and ended up linking up with the second ID element that was out of Korea that controlled the Ramadi battle space in 06, 07.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So those two ID guys, they ultimately got reflagged to 112-44. They changed 4th Brigade over to a light infantry unit and moved it up to Fort Carson.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember that.
So when I initially got there, I was wearing a 2 ID patch and then switched over to a 4th ID patch.
Yeah.
And did Colorado for, we were there from late January of 8 to May of 09. And my biological son was born March 18th of 2009. And then I left May 12th, 2009. He's like 7, 8 weeks old.
Yeah. That sucks, dude.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
When they're so young
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I was in the same.
And it was my first kid. Like I had kind of gotten like a semi-parenting as a step parent, with my stepson. Like, but he was calling me Justin at that point, like he still had like biological father, like, and so ended up that custody battle that I said was going to ensue did ensue. And every 2 months, my wife would have to fly my son back out or fly Mason back out to Virginia.
Yeah.
And she flew him back and forth and back and forth, and she would turn and burn. And ultimately, she moved back to Virginia to hash court out while I was in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So she drove my 5-year-old stepson, and in a carrier just had newborn baby Ryder, and drove across country to go back to Virginia right after I left for Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So
man, it is good sometimes, man, when you have a strong woman associated with your brother, because like my wife is, Chris is too, Doug. When you have someone that's strong and take care of those kids while you're out doing shit overseas,
like
man, it's like.
But I'll tell you
much.
though, one of the hardest things that I had to do, and I didn't understand how to do it. And I would have to say that it was probably one of the most difficult things that I navigated in my military career, and that was deploying with children.
Yeah.
Having deployed to Iraq, free and clear, single, just dick swinging in the wind, off we go, and no big deal. And then the very next time I'm going, I've got 2 sons and a wife, and all of a sudden I've got to emotionally regulate myself to leave them and say, all right, we're off. Knowing damn good and well that we're going to Afghanistan, and is this going to be the only time I'm going to see my, my son?
Yeah.
So that emotional detachment was, I wish somebody could have given me some heads up on that one.
Yeah.
It's rough.
You start thinking about trying not to be reckless and all that kind of shit, do second thoughts, and you stuff you used to do in Iraq that you're like, oh, I just did it. Now you're like, oh shit. Now you gotta be thinking about that. And, yeah, dude, it's crazy. Yeah. It's hard, man. It's hard for if you sitting there and.
Well, and it was also hard too because at that point, like I was probably teetering with alcoholism. Like that deployment was the best thing that happened in the moment that it happened. Because I was emotionally starting to try to numb myself out before I even left, which was the biggest mistake ever. Sweet baby Jesus, if you have the opportunity to have a child and you are deploying, stay of sober mind and soak every minute in you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
hey, was there a difference in the units compared to the 82nd and the unit you went over to?
No, I haven't yet. Can we take a tactical pause? I've got to go give my dog his seizure medication.
Go ahead.
Yeah, give me 5 minutes. I'll be right back.
Nope, good. Yeah, Baqubah, Chris, was like, that's something we talked about in Task Force Falcon too. It's like it was like, man, it was just a minefield.
Yeah,
we lost James will talk about it later, but like, the guys we lost to Houseborn on the last mission, there was just bombs everywhere, man, just mines and wires, command debts, and it's something I've never seen. So, because I don't think Iraq, if you look at an area that's probably resembled a little bit of what Afghanistan was, it'd probably be that area, compared to like the hazards and the mines and all that kind of stuff. But and the terrain, not the mountainous terrain, but
I am very happy that I only went to Iraq once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not that Afghanistan was a cakewalk, but I don't know.
No, I think like that's the debate. That's the debate too for everybody that's out there listening. I mean, you have um, veterans that Trenton Petty would tell you different. His experiences in Iraq versus Afghanistan. It's two different fights in two different realms, and
Oh yeah, no,
the
absolutely.
the fighters in Afghanistan were, they'd come at you in full force, man. And, maybe
Yeah,
Iraq was just a little bit more of like, a couple, I mean, you can argue some places were heavier than other, but like, Afghanistan, they would organize and, come at you,
yep,
so
yeah.
two different scenarios, two different places, man. It's hard to kind of compare,
No,
so.
it is. I mean, and they really were two completely different fights, right? On the Iraq side, for instance, you had an actual Iraqi army force that was trying and was not terrible all the time, right?
Mhm.
Whereas with the Afghan National Army, fuck, you know the deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was not good.
Yeah.
At
And
least not where I was. So
yeah, I need to train too, man. Like you
yeah,
guys in the 173rd up in why not and all that stuff in Korengal Valley is just like the terrain was just.
yeah,
I'm sure Justin will talk about it, but yeah, it's crazy. Welcome
yeah.
back.
Welcome back. All right. Yeah, I had to go. I got a French bulldog that has seizures, so
Oof,
I got to shove 5 pills down his throat twice a day.
Oh
that
wow,
sucks.
jeez.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah.
Love them dogs though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade them for nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, so we,
All
we
right.
were talking, Justin, about the two different theaters, like Afghanistan versus Iraq. So, what was your impression when you got to Afghanistan? What did you think? You've been in Iraq already. You know that environment. You know the terrain. You know what you had to face compared to what you saw when you got to Afghanistan.
I saw an ancient wasteland of
Yeah.
fallen armies that was just a different animal. Like just looking at the terrain and the landscape, and it was like you quickly understood that you were about to be in a completely different kind of fight.
Yeah.
Because the people that you were fighting had nothing to fight for, so they were just fighting to fight.
Yeah. Where were you guys at?
Iraq,
Where were you guys at
Yeah.
in Afghanistan?
I was in RC South in the Maywan and Zari districts, outside of Kandahar. So we were in the Arghandab River Valley.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that we were at Cop Terminator is where we started. And so RC South, you've got the Arghandab River, and then it butts up against a big mountain range.
Mm-hmm.
So on one side, it's like desert and a wasteland. And then you get on the other side of what's called Highway 1, for anybody that may not know. That's the north-south running highway in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And on one side, they irrigate, and on the other side, they don't. So if you were on the river side, it was like being in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
They had grapes and poppy and pot and everything else, but everything was just so thick.
Yeah.
And you would go from being in the desert to a humid, like almost jungle feeling.
Yeah.
Because there was so much of that lush green around you, and they were running so much water through there that it completely changed like the biosphere that you were in. Yeah. And your body was like, what is this? And like, it was so weird because you would sweat more, and it was like that sticky sweat versus, like when you're in Iraq, you'd be on patrol and only underneath your IBA would be sweaty because everything else would be dry so fast that you didn't even realize you were sweating.
Yeah.
But in Afghanistan, the sweat hung around.
Yeah.
Like your arms would be slick and sticky when you were down in there.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and real quick before we go any further in Afghanistan, one of the most miserable times of my life, went 33 days without a shower when we were doing Baqubah. And by the end of it, you could take like those butter knives that Doc had. You ever done that shit and they scrape the salt out of your pores?
Yeah.
I just want you to know that if there was anything that flopped me over like the biggest pansy on the face of the planet, it was having those salt crystals dried up in my back. That was gone.
Oh, dude, that's fucking horrible.
Sweating and drying and sweating and drying. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for those of you that may not have any clue what it is I'm talking about, imagine that you have been out sweating your ass off, and then all of a sudden it feels like somebody took a board of the finest, sharpest needles and shoved it on your back.
Yep.
And now all those little prickly holes that it made are there for your IBA and your body armor to just rub raw. Oh, God. And every time you sweat, a little bit more dries in your pore. So you've got a little bit more of a salt crystal in there. And that's just widening out a pore that is not supposed to have salt in it. Anyway.
I remember you
out there.
I remember if you could take your top off, man, you could stand, like you take your like BD top off, and it would stand up. Like it would just be, because it was so it's nuts. Yeah.
And we wore those flight suits, those Nomex flight suits, the tan. And those things, I don't know if pilots don't sweat as much or what, but man, they when they would get like salt in them.
Let me ask you a question. Like, how did you guys fight in those things? Like, if you have to take a shit, like, how did you stop to do a tactical shit in a flight suit?
Because I had a zipper that went from above my asshole all the way up above my dick. Like, literally a zipper that unzipped everything. So you could unzip that shit on a patrol. It was a two-way zipper. Yeah. You could go four-door back. You could meet in the middle. Like, just, it was magical. That's why I wore them. Yeah. You could wave the taint out. Like, you know, you get in there, you ride the blue pony. For those of you that do not know what the blue pony is, it is putting Gold Bond foot powder on your crotch.
Oh, yeah.
It's got that medicated twang to it, but God, it feels so good.
Yeah, it does.
But it also burns a little bit.
No, man, because I thought they were just a zip in the front. I didn't know they had it all the way to the thing. I was like, how the fuck is this guy? I always wondered, like, how
all the way.
Those fucking things. Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't a two-way zipper. I apologize. It wasn't a two-way zipper. It went all the way from the front, and you could unzip it all the way up to the back.
Oh.
So, but I mean, still though, like it just you didn't even have to drop your drawers. Like y'all shitting while you flying, like you just hang your ass out the window.
Yeah.
Like let the wind catch it. Yeah. It was bad.
Yeah.
So
when you guys got to Afghanistan, were you guys were mounted, or you guys do a lot of dismounted? Like, would you guys was it back and forth? Or?
So we had RG-31s and RG-33s. And then towards the end of the deployment, we got the MATVs. But ultimately what it was is when we got there, we fell under the Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so when we got, and when we got to that battle space, they had been having a hard time. Mm-hmm. They were not satisfied with whatever it was that the Big Red One had brought to the space. That's who we ripped. And for whatever reason, like they were like, okay, like, let's see what you guys got. Yeah. And they let us off the chain. Oh, my God. I got my JFO qualification when I was in Colorado in between Iraq and Afghanistan. A joint fires observer, for everybody that don't know, is a in-between, like a JTAC and a Fister. Yep. A JTAC is the most proficient person on the battlefield when it comes to fixed-wing aircraft and, like, you know, all this high-speed shit, and they're going to come with satellite phones, and they're going to have the best radios and the best equipment, and I can out-talk them any day of the week because they don't do shit with artillery. Adjust fire polar, over. That's all they know. Like, distance and direction is here I am. Yep. But So a joint fires observer was supposed to be the bridge to give these infantry companies the ability to have someone who could do what was called a type 2 control. And that means that as long as the pilot and me have a warm and fuzzy conversation and that pilot has the authorization, he can clear himself hot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I never got told no in Afghanistan. I take great pride in that. Like, all those pilots got warm and fuzzy. I got on there a couple of times with a couple of different pilots, and it sounded like a NASCAR pit crew because they were from somewhere in Twangyville, USA, and we caught on to each other, and we dropped down into an internal frequency, and it was just ding, 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 ding. My guys were like, "What the fuck are you saying?"
Nice.
So, but yeah, a JFO was the answer to that. And it gave the widening of the battle space because talking to a fixed wing aircraft or doing naval gunfire, I can do that too. Which, you know, being in Afghanistan, wasn't nobody shooting a damn naval gunfire around. Like, but I didn't know how to do it. It's lat long. It ain't a normal grid.
Yeah.
Anyway, them Navy boys apparently only talk lat long. But the Marines have something like me called Anglico. That is their that's their fister.
Okay.
Because you have to be a JTAC to talk to a Cobra.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed, yeah. We didn't have any because all the Cobras and shit were in Helmand. Like we were pushing into RC South while Helmand was going on. So they would bounce assets back and forth. But yeah, I never saw a Super Cobra. Been cool, but never saw one. But when we got into that battle space, the Canadians were like, "Thank you. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can kill them however you need to kill them, and whatever assets it is you need, you let us know, and we will try to do our best to get them there."
Nice.
And I will say though, the only thing that sucked when we initially got there is we had French Canadians, like the Quebec Canadians. They were the ones that were controlling the battle space when we got there. And their gun line and their FDC are on the same frequency as me. So they would talk to me in English, and then they would turn around and talk to their gun line in French, and I could hear them. And I was like, that ain't gonna work. Like, if I can hear you, I want to know that you're saying the right shit. Like, if you're going to drop to a different frequency, that's different. But if you're going to keep me on the horn, I need to know what you're saying. Like, my battalion FSNCO ended up about going round and round with the Canadians over that because they just wouldn't, like, it was like laziness. Like, why do you not have two different frequencies? Like, pick up the other radio.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so beyond that, though, 155s all day long, 777s out of Ramrod in RC South. We had 120s off of Cop Terminator. We had 120s and 81 set up. And then for the first 3 months we were there, it was wild.
Yeah, I bet.
We were going into places that the locals, like, so there were villages that were closer to Terminator. And I guess they had taken some kind of assessment and determined that out there in that barren ass wasteland, that village was more friendly to Americans than the other villages. And so ultimately, when we got there and we met with those first mullahs and stuff and had those first sits downs, they kind of mapped out like, ain't nobody been here since the Russians. I wouldn't go here if I was you. Like, and we ended up going to all them places, and it was real bad.
Jesus. Yeah. So it sounds like, man, you were doing more of your job in Afghanistan. You were doing more what you needed, what you did, right? So that's insane.
Yeah, I was a silkworm hair from being an infantryman in Iraq. Like, I mean, it was by the hair of my chin. Baqubah is the only thing that gave me the ability to say, like, I was actually a fister in Iraq.
Yeah.
Beyond that, no, because you couldn't get the damn assets. We dropped, I think we did one Gimler the whole time that we were in Baqubah. And that took forever. And we ended up sitting in the same place. But they did blow a house that was rigged. Like, it was full of fertilizer and diesel fuel. And we walked in there and was like, oh shit, we gotta go. And we hightailed it and called a Gimler in, but that was the only thing we did in Baqubah as far as actual like artillery and shit, because by 06 and 07, they had already tried to convert to hearts and minds. Yeah. So they were half in and half out doing a surge. That was a pain in the ass. Yeah. And then they turned around and did the same shit in Afghanistan a short time later. But
yeah, because during that same time frame, so while you were in Iraq, I was in Afghanistan, and it wasn't a free fire zone or anything like that, but we were doing anywhere from 30 to 60 fire missions a month, and that was just with the 105s and the 155s, not counting our internal mortars. That we were, the 120s or the 81s that we had set up because we couldn't, for whatever reason, we wouldn't be able to get the 105s or 155s, or maybe it was, the mountain range elevation, something like that. And so, and by the way, we had the Kiowas, we had the Apaches, right? And then we'd have the fixed wing come over. And so it was a hugely, hugely different battle space for that. And then, by the way, I ended up deploying, and we fell under the battalion I was in from the 173rd. We fell under 4th ID for the last portion of y'all's fight there, because we deployed in November of 09. And so, but we were up in Kunar province. So
you were up there where the shit went down with what became the Outpost movie. That was my sister battalion. The 361 guys.
Correct.
That shit was wild. Listen, I was sitting in our cop, and I was watching the Sipper Nipper feed when that was going on, and reading they've breached the wire was like, we were all just like, what do you mean breach the wire? Yeah. Like, they're getting overrun. Holy shit. And reading that shit live, that chat was definitely one of those experiences that seared in my mind. Yeah. Just because of the odd detachment from it, and then later on learning about what actually happened that day. Mm-hmm. So putting an actual visualization to the story that I was reading on that screen was some wild shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we Justin, we had the Why Not guys on here. We did an episode with those guys, and like you said, man, like the in the wire, taking out the mortar pits, all those the enemy was very complex. How they did things, they're well planned. You didn't see a lot of that stuff in Iraq, right? But you guys fighting in that AO, man. That dude, it's a whole different world, man. So. I could only imagine. What was that? What was the name of that outpost? It was this. What was it called?
Cop Keaton.
Cop Keaton, right? Yeah.
So the thing about RC South was like up there in the Kunar province, like you're up there in the mountains.
Yeah.
RC South, what they had is they had this Chinese Carez system that, like, you look out over the landscape and it almost looks like gopher holes just out everywhere. And then you come up one of those gopher holes and it's actually a 30-foot deep hole that goes down into an underground tunnel system that they use for irrigation, but just so happens to be big enough to run motorcycles through. Jesus. So they had like an underground. That's why I got blown up so big time, is because they were running 55-gallon drums of HME through those systems, and then they were just popping up like little gophers and burying them in the ditch lines that we couldn't see with our cameras. Yeah. I used to have a video of me getting blown up, but the trucks, like the dip downs were so big that those big trucks, when they went down and got to the bottom of them, you couldn't see them on the camera, or you might see like the very top of the gunner, but for the most part, you disappeared when you went down in there. That's how big they were. And so you can imagine, like, they were moving all through there and they could just do whatever they wanted. And it was real hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And then you had the Red Desert that was right there to our south, and the freaking Chechens. The intel that we were getting was that the Chechens were flying up through the Red Desert, and that they were coming and setting in and going from like the Red Desert and spreading out into the RC South battle space. So, and if anybody's been to Iraq, like that's where that shit starts. Like, and there legitimately were Chechen snipers, and they were a nightmare. That is what killed a lot of the guys in Second ID in Baqubah, was a sniper. Like, it wasn't just IEDs. Like, dudes were getting smoked walking down the street. Like, you got to the point where you couldn't have your antenna up. You know what I mean? Like, that is the kind of fighting that it ended up being. And, you know, that's bad shit. But you hear some shit about the Chechens coming around, and you're just like, damn it! You know, it just adds like another layer of fuck. Why? So, but yeah, the first 3 months that we were there, from June until August 27th, we did multiple operations the one biggest thing too about Afghanistan that was so different, what you're in an urban environment is nothing more than mud hut villages that have mud hut walls everywhere, and everything is mud, everything is dirt. There is no concrete. There is no distinguishment between landscapes. There's no, you know, oh shit, there's like a weird spot or a pothole or whatever in the road. No, everything looks the same. You've got to look for, did somebody hang a shovel in a tree, or is there a pile of rocks somewhere that's painted? You know, when you got down in them down in the grape rows and in those groves and shit, like you couldn't walk around the outside edges of them because they had pressure plates that were heavy enough for us and not for a kid. So you lost that kid element too a lot of the times.
Damn.
The IED, like the IED pressure plates that they were using were coming out of Iran, allegedly. And that was the one that got me. Like the one that was attached to almost 1,000 pounds of explosives that blew my truck up was on a 6-inch pressure plate that was made with springs that were heavy enough to where until you drove something as heavy as an armored vehicle over it, they weren't going to touch.
Yeah. What kind of vehicle were you in, Justin, when that happened?
I was in a Cougar.
Cougar? Were you driving or were you seeing her?
I was in the back. I was in the back on the passenger side, the TC side.
Okay. Wow.
So ultimately,
damn, bro.
Let's see. I'm trying to get that shit to focus. Sorry.
It's all right. That shit got fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't know can I add a picture live? Like, can I put a picture in my box?
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Visual effects.
Or if you send it to me, I can pull it up.
Let's see. I guess I could send it. I'll send it to Jerry real quick on a text message. I don't think I've got your number yet, Chris.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll send it to you, Chris. I'll put it now. I'll put it in the email.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. All right. I just sent that to you.
Cool. All right, let me get this. Yeah, you guys can keep discussing. I'll send this to Chris real quick.
Yeah. So yeah, I was in an RG-33, which, like I said, ultimately is called the Cougar. And I'm gonna tell y'all something that kind of makes this ironic, and we just gonna act like the rest of the internet's gonna keep the secret with us. My wife is 9 years older than I am. So she just happens to be a cougar. And a cougar saved my life in Afghanistan. So it just all played out so well.
Yep.
And
Divine
it's crazy,
providence.
dude, because the Cougars are older vehicles too. They're like the older,
Yeah, I mean, so you talking about technology that we scooped up from the South Africans with that anti-mine V-shaped hull.
Yeah.
And, the one thing about the IED that I was in, that I talked to a guy that worked for Oshkosh and built these things. And he kind of went white when I said it, but the hull was cracked and it was inverted. So the IED had squeezed it back up. But when you get that picture pulled up there, I sent
it to our email, Chris. It's in our email.
Got it. Yep.
Like I said, this EOD told my guys this, and they told me this, so take it for what it's worth. But EOD said it was somewhere between 900 and 1,100 pounds of HME, and it was the largest successfully detonated IED that they had seen to date.
Damn.
Now, that morning, PFC Matthew Wiles, rest in peace, our 3rd platoon element was out that morning, and I had just come back in from being out with our scouts, because we had scouts on Terminator, and they were not allotted a me. They weren't supposed to have a fister. And ultimately, I guess I should back up a little bit and tell y'all this real fast. When we came to Afghanistan, my actual FSNCO, I was an E4 promotable when we stepped foot in Afghanistan. My FSNCO did not come on the deployment until 7 weeks into the deployment. So I did the RIP as the FSNCO with my lieutenant for the company, redid the entire fires plan for the company, went around to all of the guard towers at Terminator, took 3D panoramic pictures of everything they could see, set up pre-planned targets for everybody, printed out these big, long panoramic pictures and laminated them. And I put them up in the guard towers. So all boys had to do is, if the shit is coming from there, you just got to call this number out, and that's where the rounds will start dropping, and you can adjust from there.
Yeah.
And I taught my dudes how to do that. We had a class. Once I got everything set up, I took all the snuffies around and was like, listen, if you up here and some shit pops off, don't try to do anything else. You just start calling those numbers out. And they were like, all right, that's simple. So ultimately, that is one of the things that I did accomplish when I went to Afghanistan, is that I did the RIP as the FSNCO for the company and my platoon.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But, wild as shit. But, like I said, old Sergeant Godwin there, he set me up for success. So I was doing good. Hope he hadn't straightened out.
There's not much left of this truck, man. It's incredible. No. The whole body.
Yeah, so when you're looking, let's see. All right, so you see down here in the bottom left where the you can see the wheels are sitting up there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what happened is there was a truck with a mine roller in front of us. That's the messed up part, is a truck with a mine roller missed a 6-inch pressure plate. And I remember in the Bose headset, the TC going, stay in their tracks. I don't want any surprises. And then the next thing I remember is all of a sudden I just felt the pressure. It was like it happened in slow motion. I felt the pressure coming up, and all of a sudden, I was weightless. And I thought that we had hit an IED because I felt us starting to kind of go back up the hill. We had went down because we got in contact. Ultimately, let me back up. Sorry, I jumped way ahead in the story. So that morning on August 27th, 3rd Platoon was out doing their thing. I had just came back in. I just laid down in my cot, and all of a sudden the entire cot shook. Just boom. And 3rd Platoon hit an IED about 1,200 meters from the front gate. And it was their front truck that hit it, but it ultimately went off right under the gunner's platform, and it took the gunner's platform, the turret, and the kid that was in it, and threw him 300 meters away. So ultimately, when we started this adventure, it was an MIA because they couldn't find his body.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the thing about it is what a lot of people don't realize is when something like that happens, it was complex. So there were more fighters around. So the immediate fear is that they have come in and snatched a body or, you know, snatched an alive person that got thrown out of a truck. Ultimately, Turret just, you know, he was dead. But the shit part about it is that kid turned 18 years old 3 days before we went to Afghanistan. He took the first rotation of leave. He had been back on leave 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And so they had him KIA, and then they had two WIAs that ended up going to roll 3 because like it jacked one of them's arm up, like smashed his elbow. Anyway, our QRF, like we got spun up. My platoon was on QRF. And so right before they were about to roll, the guy that I got blown up with, Travis Clennon, he came in and kicked my cot, and he was like, dude, I know you just got here, but I need you to come with us. Like there's some shit popping off and I need my FO with me, basically. He was the weapons squad leader. And I was like, all right, man, like I laid my shit and threw my shit on, went and got in the truck with him, and we took off down there. And we initially got there and we stopped and we just set in place, and we started taking a little bit of small arms, and I was worn out. I unbuckled my seatbelt and I laid down in the floor of the truck, right? And we go to move and get into a different position, and for whatever reason, my ass had stayed in that same position not 2 weeks earlier when we had went to move the trucks, and I didn't get up. Right. And I just sat there and slept. I was like, fuck it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to get up, and I need to get like buckled in, you know? Like there's no reason for me to be laying down here. And so this time I got up, got in my seat, buckled myself in, and 30 seconds later, I'm flying through the air with my arms up. And so, you know, in those trucks, there's a table right here in the back, you know? So I smashed my elbow on that table, and like I've got like a collapsed tunnel where my funny bone goes through. Like my funny bone nerve sits on the outside of that tunnel because I smashed it on there real bad. But so initially when it went off, like I thought we were rolling over. So I put my hands up, and it felt like forever. But then all of a sudden, what had happened is we started going up that hill, and it blew us back like this. And we came down and smashed on the front end of the truck and then sat down. And so we had that initial blast that crunched everything down. And then I went weightless and everything opened back up. And then we hit the ground on that armored hull, and everything just went. And I had some metal in my leg, and I'm assuming that it was from the engine, like pieces of the engine that had come in through the gunner's turret, because that's the engine right there. Like on this bottom right-hand corner, this picture, that's the engine that is on top of the truck. You could see it in the video. Jeez. When it went off, it threw that engine up, and I guess just because of like because we were all getting blown in the same direction, the engine came back with us, and by the grace of God, it landed on the outside of that gunner. I mean, look, it is molten against that gunner's turret. I mean, by that much, it didn't land on my gunner.
Damn.
So everything happened initially. Like I realized we had stopped. Like I got hit in the legs with like a couple of ammo cans, and like I said, I'm assuming metal came in from the engine because I had one big piece in the front of my shin, and like I took my heel and just raked my heel down my leg because like I felt like my legs were broke. But I just looked down and I just saw this like little hunk of metal sticking out of my leg, and but I couldn't. It just didn't even register. Like there was no pain to it or anything. It was just like I could tell that it was there, and I raked it out. So there was that. The worst part about the entire experience at this point is because when the IED went off, it kicked up so much dust and shit. And then when the engine came down on top of us, it threw all that oil and shit in on top of us. So all those fluids and stuff were in there with us, and all the gases from all that shit getting thrown out. I couldn't breathe. There was no oxygen in that truck, and I thought that I was going to suffocate. I thought that's how I was going to die.
Is that it right there on the side, Justin? Like, is that all the fluid and just like black stuff?
Yeah,
like
so if you're looking up in the top right corner picture, all that stuff right there is that's all the engine fluid and the transmission fluid and all that shit. So you got to figure too, when my guys were trying to get us out of here, and I may have to just send you one more picture because it is very telling of the just the situation.
Yeah. So for all our listeners, while you're doing that, Justin, for all our listeners that are maybe just listening and not watching this on YouTube, what we've got here, it is the absolute demolished skeleton of an up armored vehicle that we used to drive around in Afghanistan and some in Iraq. The axle on one of the photos, the axle is completely off of the vehicle. On another one, Justin was just describing where the entire engine block blew up in the air and it landed back on the side of the vehicle, just missing where on the top of the vehicle there's a turret for where we would place a gunner up there with a 50 cal or Mark 19 or some similar weapon system up there. That again, luckily the engine block did not land directly on that, but just off to the side. But the photo, our description of it isn't really going to do it justice. It is literally covered in, looks like just black sludge. And so again, all the fluids that are built up inside that engine block, just as it bursts, has to go somewhere, and it starts coming inside the vehicle on top of Justin and the other crew members in there with the dust, everything else. And it's just choking them right now.
So I just sent Jerry some pictures. So one of the things that occurred was that there's one weak spot in those trucks, and it's the access panel where they can work on the transfer case. It's between the driver and the TC, right? It's the one piece of armor that's actually bolted down. Well, that came open and hit my buddy's elbow that was in the passenger seat in the TC seat, and shattered his elbow. But the thing about it and it's in one of the pictures that I sent to Jerry, that and I just want to send you a picture of the hole itself. So when it initially went off, there's a lot of space in those trucks when you get in and you sit down, your knees are by no means touching anywhere up, because you have a screen in front of you when you sit down in there. And that's where the TC kept up with everybody, because that was called the Blue Force Tracker. Yep. Well, that Blue Force Tracker was touching his legs because it crushed the front of the vehicle in. Man. And one of the pictures that I sent him is of my M4, which is interesting because
I know. I was trying to figure out what the fuck.
That's my M4. And you can the pictures that I sent you there, we'll look at them, but they were the hole that is there. There's not really a comparison, but you can look in one of these pictures and you can see, let's see, is it this one? It may be in the other one, but you can see how far it threw us from where we were at and started to where we landed. You can see the hole in the background, but you got to figure that that hole is about as wide as the average garage door.
Yeah. So you had a driver, you had a TC, and then yourself and a gunner, right?
And a gunner. Yeah. So after the initial explosion went off and like we landed, and I was the only one in the truck that could move. I was the only one that was mobile. And so I popped myself loose. And the first thing that I did is we kept water bottles underneath the seats. And I just because in that moment I had so much dirt and oil and blood in my mouth that there was just nothing that was of sustenance that was coming in or out of me.
Yeah.
And it was just this choking feeling that And so I just took that water bottle basically and just crushed it into my mouth to try to get that shit out of there. And by the time that I had spit that shit out, some sort of semblance of oxygen had kind of started to seep back into the truck. So at least I felt like, and so I got down the gunner and the 50 cal went off and it threw it off the truck and it split his chin open right here. So I could see his jaw. And he had all of his teeth and shit. And I pulled him down and he was like, I think my face is messed up. And I was like, they'll fix it. Don't worry about it. They got good dentists. Your teeth will look better than they did before. And so when it went off, it picked him up. He was buckled in, thank God. Because I thought, after what had just happened with the first truck, I thought that I was going to look over and there wasn't going to be anybody there.
Yeah.
That was my initial thought. And so just to see him there, that his body was still present, I was like, all right, shit, at least he didn't go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he have the gunner? Did he have the gunner restraints? The gunner restraints strap or something?
Yeah, the harness that. Yeah, the harness that they wore, where they started, there was a gunner's platform that they stood on, and it had a O-ring on it that you clicked into, and that ultimately went to a harness that was kind of basically between your legs. Yeah, that's the seat that I was in. You see how the seat belt on the one on the right is just kind of laying, but that one's straight.
Yeah.
Something about how hard that I hit it, it just I don't know. My guys were the whole thing was just straight.
Yeah.
It just didn't lay down. But yeah, that shelf right there is when I hit my elbow on. But if you look at the picture with the engine on top of the vehicle, you see that what's happened is they couldn't get in the TC side. So the engine had went molten on top of there. But on the other picture I sent you, you see that panel that's blown open? Yeah. So that's a piece of steel. I mean, it's a piece of armor. And there's a cage, as you go back in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, but I grabbed a hold of this because nobody could get up into the truck because of all the oil.
Yeah.
So there was no going into the gunner's hatch. And I had already heave-hoed the gunner out. And my TC was up there. And I never forget that when it initially went off, he was just screaming. And he was like, you tell them that we're okay. Tell them that we're okay. And I was like, we are not okay. And he was like, well, they have to know that we are at least alive to call in the right medevac. He was lucid in telling me this. And that's the messed up part is me and him remember everything.
Yeah.
There is no blank spots. And you can look at the steering wheel right here and it's kind of bent.
Yeah.
The driver hit it with his collarbone. So he bent the steering wheel with his neck right here.
Mhm.
And when I initially came up and looked over at him, he had brown shit coming out of his mouth, just dripping. He was out. Checked him for a pulse. He was alive. And I thought initially that the brown stuff, like I thought that something was going on like with his internal workings, and something that was supposed to come out the back end was coming out the front end. And I touched it and I was like, he was eating Famous Amos cookies when we got blown up. So he had a mouth full of cookies.
Yeah.
And I had to rake cookies out of his mouth because he was like choking on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is some shit. Famous Amos cookies. And I got a finger full of them, like digging them out of his mouth. But that was some weird shit. That kid, unfortunately, he didn't survive coming home.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at the dashboard. It seems like it's pushed forward. Like these guys are sitting here. It's just like everything's collapsed on them. That's insane, man.
And see, you can see where this access panel is at. You see how you see light under there. That's because it's tilted up like this. And if you came around the other side, you'd be able to see straight up in there. That's the only weak spot on those trucks. And by God, it went flying open. So I had to and I put both of my feet. I don't know how I did it, but ultimately it turned out that I had fractured the top of both of my femurs, like in my hips, but because my hips pulled out of place and shoved back in real fast. So I didn't even know it at the time, but apparently I had like put a bunch of fractures in the top of my femur that like goes up into the hip joint, like that ball, because I had to have this hip worked on. And anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. But so I had to pull that access panel back more. Like I pulled it back towards me more. I don't know how the hell I did it, so that they could drag him across here, because as it sat right there, like a human being with body armor and shit, like wouldn't fit through that hole.
No.
And I have no idea how like I pulled that back, but pulled that back, got him out. And then I came out the gunner's hatch. And initially I told my dudes I didn't need a medevac. I was like, I'm good. And they were like, no, you need to go get checked out, man. And I was like, I'm good. So they got me out of the truck. And when my feet hit the ground, it was like somebody turned a switch off. And I was like, oh. And I just immediately had to sit down. And I remember like they took my body armor off of me. They were going to pull the cord. And I was like, don't you pull that damn cord. I was like, I will take it off. Because anybody that doesn't know, the IBAs and the body armor have got like a pull cord. And if you pull it, it just like basically the body armor just falls off. But you got to reweave that shit and put it back together. And in my mind, like I was coming right back. I was like, nope, don't you do it. So I took it off and I laid back. And I remember I was like, oh man, there's like a big ass rock under my back. And I reached back there to move the rock and there was nothing there. And it was my spine swelling. It was the pressure.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so ultimately I got medevaced to Kandahar and went to roll 3. And
Chris, hold on. Chris, can you put his weapon? Can you put that picture up real quick? You can just see that as well. Okay, cool.
Yes. I don't know exactly how that happened, but yeah, that is ultimately my M4.
It's crazy.
Again, for everybody that's just listening to this, imagine in your mind an M4. Throw that picture away, and then just imagine a whole bunch of individual pieces that look like they have just been shattered and melted all over the place.
Yeah, just with a lower receiver left.
Yeah, that's really the only identifiable piece is the lower receiver in the magazine.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the magazine's still in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still in it. Hey, okay,
still
real
chilling.
quick, is the dust cover closed?
Yeah.
I I don't know if that does cover.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I might need some Chat GPT enhancement on that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because the upper part of the receiver that's over here to the right of the barrel is just kind of, like, I don't know what that is exactly, but
it's done.
The 50 cal was about in the same, the 50 cal was in about the same shape. Did you have you mind put that picture up of the hole?
Of the hole.
Did I get, I sent that to Jerry. I don't know if he sent it. No, it's a picture of a hole.
Oh yeah, it's in the email, bro. It's in the email.
Okay,
Chris.
hold on. I didn't get that one. Stand by. Y'all fill the dead space with air.
Ultimately, that hole that is about to come up on the screen, like, you could have put probably 10 people in it at least, and they could have stood there. And it's so wild because it's in a hill, so it looks like you took a dozer and just like scraped it out from the hill.
It's this top right one, right?
No, I just sent it to you.
Okay.
It's like, it looks like a, door. Looks like a little building kind of thing.
If I don't know what my Facebook @ is, but I'm just free, like Justin Freeman on Facebook. And if you go into my albums in my pictures, I have one that's dated August 27th, 2009. And it is 50 pictures of the aftermath of that IED.
Yeah,
you can see. Well, the only thing I was going to say is, like, where the radio mount sat, the table that it sat on. Yeah, there it is. So that hill is so tall that when you drove the truck down in the low part right before you started going up, you couldn't see the truck. So if you were just measuring, that's probably 15 feet tall as a hill, like if you just sheared it off flat. So that hole is probably 8 by 10 or so. It's massive.
Jesus.
But basically what they had done is, over time, they had just rolled those 55-gallon drums, and EOD said that they figured what they were doing is, like, basically just adding to them. Yeah. Like, they were rigged to blow at any given time, and when they could, they would just roll down another 55-gallon drum of HME.
Just a good measure.
A lot, I guess. That's the way it sounded. I mean, if I'm wrong about that, then somebody by all means correct it. But from what EOD told my guys and all that, is that, yeah, they were just basically packing them in there. But the messed up part about it is 2 weeks later, one of my buddies from 3rd Platoon that I went to Iraq with was with the 2nd ID Strikers out of Lewis that was in RC South, and hit a 1,500-pound one. Sheared the front of the striker off.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Lost his leg, lost his left leg, lost parts of his right leg, broke his back. Like, it was pretty bad. But it was just wild because we were within a couple of weeks of each other.
Yeah.
And I remember when it happened, I was still up in Kandahar because I didn't leave country after this. Just so we get to that part real quick.
Oh,
no. So I went up to Kandahar and I was like, I'm not fucking leaving. And my first sergeant and my commander were like, what do you mean? And I was like, I cannot leave country. I was like, after seeing what my guy that was in the passenger seat, the shape that he was in, with the little bit of morphine love that I had, I was able to scoot my ass around on my own power. No, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving my guys. Because in my mind, I knew if I went home, leaving my guys, knowing that my wife was in Virginia, I'd have been in Colorado by myself, I'd 100% checked my own. I'd have punched my own ticket. But I figured if I could stay in country, at least we'd keep it at 50-50 at that point.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me stay. And they did. And it took me 5 weeks in total to go back out again. Like,
damn, you went back. You went back out again after all that? That's crazy.
I did the rest. I did another year of the deployment after this.
Holy crap, dude.
Damn.
I don't have it convenient. I ain't gonna try to look for it, but I have a picture of me the first day that I went out. Like,
wow.
It was on a foot patrol, and
Damn, son.
You can see it on my face. Like, I'm a ghost.
Yeah.
I am terrified.
Yeah.
But yeah. And the worst part about it is like they had picked up a new outpost, and it was called Gundagar. And it was like God put a big giant pimple in the middle of all of this flat land. There was just this big hill that, for whatever reason, like, it was the best overwatch position possible for where we were at.
Yeah.
But to get there, you had to drive down a road that had walls on both sides of it, and it was just wide enough to squeeze those trucks through there. And I mean, it was just because it had been, they hit 4 IEDs just trying to get from Highway 1 to the damn hill to start like using it as an outpost. Like it was madness.
Yeah.
And so that was like one of my first, like, all right, the platoon is going to go out there, and we would stay out there for a week at a time. Man, getting out there was God almighty. So yes, 5 weeks later, I was going back out again and ultimately finished out the deployment.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
So
Yeah.
when you got back to the States, man, were you just still suffering from like these injuries?
Oh, I was a
and
broken
stuff?
human being. Oh, I was a
Yeah,
broken
like-
human being. Whew. I carry more guilt in my soul from after my deployments than I do for anything I did on my deployments.
Yeah.
I think that's true for most of us.
Yeah.
I was a break glass in case of war, and I was broken, and I was okay as long as I was in war. But when you took me out of that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet. Yeah. You go from 100 miles an hour to
Full stop.
full stop, worried about this, worried about that. It's like,
Yeah.
this seems meaningless, like what am I doing anymore? Like, it's just,
Well-
it's tough, man.
Yeah.
And so I have never disclosed this part of my story. Hold on. I have never disclosed this part of my story publicly. So when I was in when I was in Afghanistan, as time went on, I started to realize that it wasn't so much physical as it was mental. I was having a hard time starting to concentrate, right? And so I started trading my painkillers with a guy in my platoon because he had Adderall. Well,
Mhm.
we took one piss test while we were in Afghanistan. Old Freebird here came up hot for it, and I didn't rat anybody out. And I was like, I didn't know that was going to come up, like whatever. And they absolutely destroyed me.
Wow. Did you get a full blown Article 15 and all that kind of stuff? And did you get reduced to rank?
Yep. I went from E5 promotable to E4.
Damn.
Jeez.
Yeah, brother. That's a rough one right there.
Yeah.
We had
And I know that's not that bad. People like, dude, like,
Yeah.
People just don't, like, your listeners out there that some that are new to the military, man. It's just the struggles that, we kind of faced, and, guys, had to deal with it, find an outlet for something, right? And you've had your
Yeah.
best. You had your best soldiers, man. Some of your best
Yeah.
leaders and some of your best warriors out there that, were in the fight most of the time, and you just couldn't. I mean, you had to find a way to get that
I
out. You had to find a
knew
way, man.
Yeah.
that as a 13 Fox, like I had to focus, had to concentrate, and I tried to talk to one of the medics about it, and of course, like that they were just like, you would have to go get like a psych eval and all this other, and I was like, man, fuck this, and ultimately did that, but we had 3 months left in the deployment. I did extra duty, and I went out twice a day, every day from that point forward. And
yeah, that's got to be tough, man. Like
well, but the thing about it is like all the leadership and stuff just threw me under the bus. Like there was nothing that had happened up until that point. It was like none of that blown up shit, staying in country. Like nobody was thinking about any of that. So ultimately I got busted down. I show back up in the States as an E4 now. So I was shattered.
Yeah.
Did the wife know about all that? You talked to her all about, coming back to the
Well,
States,
yeah, I mean,
dealing with it?
Yeah, no, we talked it out like when I was in Afghanistan, and she was like, why did you not just, like, we had this medic that stole all the pain medicine, stole all the Klonopin, had all the auto injectors filled with saline. My initial auto injector when I got hit was full of saline, not morphine.
Holy shit.
That guy went to Leavenworth. Like he was shooting up and shit in the tents. He was the senior medic for the company when we were initially out at Cop Terminator.
God damn.
Good Lord.
So
I think leadership wise, guys, for our listeners out there, right? Like 20 years of combat, right? Like you have to have. It's easy to throw someone the book at them, and I think me and Chris have talked about this in some of our last episodes, right? Like you have to take a step back and you have to think through
context.
the situation,
and
get context and talk about, like, if that soldier has never had issues, has never had never been a problem, and all of a sudden now they're having problems, you as a leader gotta think through that, right? Like it's the easy button to say, sit in front of the boss and say, 45, take his rank. But if you don't do some digging and you don't do some, like, into what that soldier's going through, then you're wrong.
Half a month's pay for 2 months with a wife, a newborn, and a son at home.
And Jerry and Justin, don't get it twisted, right? There's still got to be some sort of payment for doing wrong. Okay,
agreed.
It's not that it's a get out of jail free card just because X, Y, and Z happened, and it happened because of A, B, and C. But it's being able to piece all that together to get a better understanding of Justin at this point in time in his life, that he's got a stellar performance record up until this point, and then all of a sudden he pops out for Adderall. Okay, let's sit down and let's figure out why.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So maybe it's not the full 45 and 45, half month's pay for 2 months and a rank. Maybe it's something along suspension. Thank you. Maybe it's something along those lines. And look, Justin, I don't know your chain of command, and I don't want you to say their names on here, please. But I don't know what they were going through. I don't know what, if they had something else somewhere over here that affected what they were thinking. But I will tell you from Jerry's perspective and my perspective, just like Jerry said, you've got to take each one of these on an individual basis, and you can't just, done. He done wrong. We're gonna screw him over. And maybe to their credit, they're not even thinking they're gonna screw you over, but he done wrong. Here's the book. Do your time. No, man, there has to be at least some forethought put into that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sounds like
So-
there's a lot of other things happening with the medic, so who knows?
I mean, yeah. So, but my wife did know about it before I came back to the States. Like and again, I've never talked about everything that I'm about to tell y'all. So at that point, get back to Fort Carson. I am just a shell of a person, and got sent back to Fort Bragg.
Of all places.
Yeah.
So I go back to Bravo Company 2505. Why are you an E4?
How much time
Oh,
you got?
yeah. And by the way, I'm on a profile because all those injuries from that IED,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I go back to Fort Bragg, show up to the first formation, and get berated by First Sergeant about being a broke dick and how he didn't want a broke dick in his company. Don't send me broke dick fisters. So I ultimately, like, nobody said, like, hey, we're getting ready to go to Afghanistan. I know that apparently some shit happened, but you still did 15 months in Afghanistan as a successful JFO.
Yeah.
What you got? Maybe teach us some shit. Nope, just shit bag. So that made me a shit bag,
Yeah.
and I got worse.
And that's hard, right? Because it starts to feel like, whether in this case it is, or if it's just in the individual's mind, like it's starting to compound, and it's like you just can't get a break.
Hey Justin, if you don't want to go into it, man, you don't have
Yeah.
to, brother. Don't feel pressured to talk about it.
Yeah.
If you're not ready, man, like it's
So
I mean, if it's tough, you don't necessarily need to tell it.
here's the thing: is the reason that I want to tell it is because so many guys got thrown away. Like, only because of my wife did I get medically retired. They wanted to kick me out of the Army.
Yeah.
Had they had their way, had I not like had my badass, I am going to come in here with a PowerPoint presentation pregnant and give the battalion commander a thorough, wait a minute, you are trying to throw away someone that had an honorable, like, 2 deployments, like 30 plus months between Iraq and Afghanistan, and he is physically broken from this IED, and like nobody is. And to back up a little bit, I got there, got worse, went to rehab, spent 6 weeks in rehab in Warrior, Alabama. Came back to the unit and said, I'm going to stay in the Army because, God, I don't know what else I'm going to do. And after 6 weeks of not doing Army shit, my body had kind of like calmed down. So I felt better. And I was sober. And I was like, I'm going to stay in. So I start trying to do PT tests and do them like on a profile and all that stuff. And I go to a board to get promoted to E5. And I went to that board, and after that board, they told me that I was not ready to be an NCO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just broke you.
I just ended up fighting with MPs. And like I said, my wife came in there, and they literally signed me over to my wife. I have an official Army letter, like memorandum from my commander, that says, he is your responsibility. You got to let us know he's alive. Get him out of the Army. And she pushed me through a medical board. Because, I mean, that's what should have happened. I should have been med boarded the second that I got back in country in 2010, but instead didn't get med boarded until 2013.
Yeah.
But got med boarded as just a broken, like, I mean, shitbag was the only words that came to my mind when I thought about my military service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. Yeah.
Well, but the thing about it is, you know, at the same time, like, I accept responsibility for the things that I did. And no matter what, at the end of the day, I made the decisions that I made because I thought that that was the right thing to do, good, bad, or indifferent. And it wasn't. And that's what led me down that road initially. And then from that point forward, like, yes, I was a broken human being and painkillers and all that other shit, you know, but getting your shit together in that environment is hard to do.
Yeah.
And I was like living in a war zone anyway, because on Fort Bragg or around Fort Bragg, there's so many artillery ranges and shit. My house would shake constantly.
Oh yeah. I know all about
But
that.
the reason I even got into this is because we watched going to these appointments, just combat patch after combat patch, fuzzies, E2s, E3s, just broken kids getting chaptered out. Like, they didn't have a Susan. They didn't have my wife, you know? And so it happened to a lot of guys, you know? Like disciplinary infractions, and your whole world shatters because it's a machine, and that machine has to run and it has to be efficient. And you can't be a broken part in the machine. And determining that you're a broken part in the machine is the hardest thing in the world to do. That acceptance of what I thought I was going to do for 20 years is over.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything else, you know? And again, if it wasn't for my wife, I would have gotten just booted out of the Army.
Yeah.
But she got me medically retired, got me 100%. Got me all the things that I had earned, and didn't let me.
How does she know so much about all these things?
She didn't.
Processes? She just worked through it.
She just, my God, she worked for corporate USAA.
Yeah.
And she's a boss. She's very intelligent. And she literally, the only thing that really and truly saved me is because right before like all that shit happened with the board, a guy that had been repeatedly, his wife had come to the company and said, "You've got to help him. You got to help him. You got to help him. Like, you have got to fucking help him." And he killed himself. And because they did not want that again, and they saw that that's the road that I was on.
Yeah.
Because I'd already had one attempt and ended up in the house with no shoelaces. And so they were like, And so they were willing to listen at that point. That's the only thing that saved me. So many pieces of God just fell in place right then and there.
Yeah.
And I happened to get an appointment with this old man that was getting ready to retire. And he was a doctor. And he did med board appointments just randomly. You know what I mean? Like, he had an open schedule.
Yeah.
And my wife sat down with this lady and basically just said, "I need a miracle."
Yeah. That's insane. So I tell you, man, just what kind of irritates me a little bit, and I don't want to bash leadership, man. Like, and this is the culture of the military, right? Like,
it is.
I think for leaders, sometimes like young leaders, it's easy to disregard the problem. I wouldn't say problem. The kids that you have, their leadership challenges.
Yeah, the difficult.
It's easy to put them off to the side because it's hard. Leadership is hard, right? And it's easy to stick with the studs, and it's easy to stick with those kids. And hey, go do your thing, dude. I don't know how to handle you. Go over here and do that, and do what you got to do. And that's a culture sometimes of the military, man. And like, if you're in charge, like if you have somebody under you, it's everybody. It's not just your good ones, right? It's the challenges too. So, leadership. Well, there's a lot of lessons learned out of that, man. Because that's why we went through that dilemma of issues with the suicides and stuff coming back on the back end of G-Win. And there could be a little bit more leadership engagement there, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know, man.
I think that what is hard too is because like I said, it's efficiency of the machine.
Yeah.
Like even though I see it from their point of view, and that's hard, is because like I have crushed my ego and I can sit at every seat at the table. Yeah. And like I can look at it from that battalion commander's position. Like, I am just another 13 fox in a line of 13 foxes, and they're getting ready to go to Afghanistan, and a broken 13 fox is not an efficient 13 fox. And so I am a number that cannot be used, but I am a number that has taken up a slot that he needs an efficient 13 fox.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that's the shitty part about it is the dehumanization of war and the military and everything else. Like, we sit here and we're like, that sucks. And like, we should have like looked differently at it. But the reality of it is it's just the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we you know, sitting talking about, when did you start to get to upward bound? When you got out, when did you start to see, hey, like, I'm starting to get better? You know, I'm med boarded. I'm like doing my thing. And where do I start to, you know, when does that happen?
11/22/2013, my daughter was born.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
And I became addicted to her.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Hadley Rain Freeman.
I like that. Good name.
Is that when what caused you to start getting sober? Is when that happened? Is that like, you know,
when she was born, I stopped smoking. I never touched another drink, and I have had now 3 surgeries, and I don't even put pain medicine in the anesthesia.
Wow.
Damn. Good for you, man.
Because if at the end of the day I can't mess it up for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I eventually just told myself that over and over and over and over, and you know, through a lot of fighting and everything else, like it was cold turkey. And then once I got away from the booze, I will tell you that was probably one of the biggest things that changed everything. Was once I got rid of the alcohol and was able to sober-mindedly approach all this shit over here that had happened in war and everything else, I could actually start to process it.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly but surely, I slugged my way out of there. And the day my daughter was born, like, I just said no more.
Yeah.
And
for you.
And with my sons, obviously my stepson, who's my oldest, like I didn't experience baby with him, you know. And then my son that was born right before I went to Afghanistan, like he was almost 18 months old when I came back.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't experience any of that with him, but with her, every second of it.
Yeah.
And I just became like the gorilla that had the baby, you know. I was like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you can't have her.
I mean, looking at this, brother, like you went through some hard times, man. And I tell you, you're not the first guy on here that's talked about the alcoholism piece too. Because we had a guy too, man. That like he was in the shit. Like he's you know, he ended up he was a ranger, and a ranger community kind of saved him in what he was doing. He's a family man just like you too, man. It's just I think going through all these struggles, bro, like it just makes you a better person. It just makes you a better father. It makes you a better, like now, like you're on the sober track. You got an amazing wife, dude. I mean,
I mean, don't get me wrong. She's ready to take me to the used car lot about every other day. But, you know, dude, she's like, shit, you're more trouble than what you're worth.
But hey,
and it's the truth, though.
She stuck with you through this whole thing, man. That's the thing about it. You know, like,
I mean, there's not, you know, I told her, I was like, besides Hadley, I was like, I will kill every other motherfucker on the face of this planet for you. There ain't nobody else that has got a slot that is higher than yours, no matter what. And I was like, and if you do get rid of me one day, which nobody would blame you, and I have said that for a long time now, I'm like, it's peaceful in the valley, just so we're clear, you know. It's one of those things, but it's it was so hard to separate the broken Justin from this Justin.
Yeah.
You know, like two things can be true at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and that's a thing for veterans, bro. Like, it's like, I even struggle with that. That's why that's why I started this podcast. That's why me and Chris started this podcast, because like I struggle with my identity as well. Like I did 30 years in the Army, man, and that was a huge part of my life, and I love it. And I'm turning the page now, but there's still a lot of bad moments within that 30 years, man. And I want to move on, man. I'm Jerry now. Like, I'm a different person, So, that's moving on and doing that and turning the page, man. And I wasn't necessarily a good father, and I wasn't necessarily a good husband. A lot of that, So
remember at the first of this, I said I carry more guilt for after war than I do during war. Now you know what I meant by that.
Yeah, 100%. So what are you doing now, Justin? Like, what are you up to now? That's obviously being a good father, man, a good man, and doing some stuff. Like, what's your plans? What's the future Justin look like?
Well, my brother is works for the Joint Chiefs Staff. He wrote the combatives program for the Air Force. He ultimately just put a stirrup into the SEER pipeline. So if you go through SEER now, you got to go through what he put in there to be qualified as level 3 SEER. Okay. He was on a board in 2016 that rewrote the classified SEER, like reorganized the classified SEER stuff that they're doing. He was the first airman to be on staff at the Air Force Academy, or a first enlisted airman, I'm sorry, to be on staff at the Air Force Academy. And he is the only person in the Department of War that can train a trainer in every branch of the military.
Oh, wow.
So, all that shit being said, basically, I am just another dude that went to war.
Yeah.
I got enough shinies and enough country twang that people will listen for me to explain how much you could learn from my brother.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's future. But up until now, my wife ultimately, once we had been here for a little while, and because the first 3 years we were here, I was basically doing macaroni art, learning how to braid 550 cord, coloring. I was batshit crazy. And we moved into suburbia, and my wife was like, you cannot spew that here.
Yeah.
Keep it in the house. And so, like, I managed to not let any of these people see all that crazy shit. I stopped crawling in the bushes and shit. So that's worked out well. She became a real estate agent. Ultimately became a really good real estate agent. And I will be there if she's got out of town people or whatever. But I mean, she's basically like a sugar mama. Shit, she does well.
Yeah.
But I help her, like, she does staging and all kinds of stuff. So I carry these little plants in, and and I mean, also, like, it's kind of part of the dynamic in the story. And people are like, oh, this hot chick's not going to kind of sleep with my husband. She has a hot husband. So that is what I've been doing up until this point. And of course, like I said, just anything and everything with my kids. My oldest son just graduated from the University of Alabama. My middle son is a senior in high school, and he wants to go to Alabama too. And then my daughter, she is getting ready to turn 13. So I think that I might live in a foxhole for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
That's a different animal, gentlemen. Yep. I'll go back to war. Like, can I just go back and hang out in the desert while all that gets sorted out? Because that little girl is not my little girl. That's the devil. Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, brother, I got a 20-year-old daughter. I got you.
Yeah, so I'm at the beginning stages of that madness, and we all trying to learn about that dragon that just showed up at the house. So, ultimately, me and my brother and my brother-in-law, who is an ER physician and has got more firearms than a small gun store, have started Be Free Under Mutts.
Okay.
And it is the Barlow, Freeman, and Underwood. That's the Be Free Under Mutts. And the Mutts is multiplying useful tactical thinking skills. And the goal, because of what my brother wrote as a combatives program, he is actually he has an accredited college course at the Air Force Academy. Mm-hmm. And so the goal is we want to get in the space of like maybe residents or maybe a little prior, but teaching medical people, nurses and doctors, like how to basically teaching them the best self-defense ever, but doing it within the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah.
That's the difficult part. But the thing that my brother has done is the entire purpose of his combatives is for pilots and stuff. So it's all break contact. Like it's not hurt people, it's get away from people. And so it's kind of that thought process of not having to do that. But so when he retires, like we'll get that going full blown. And that's kind of why I started doing social media, is because we started talking about that and just slowly but surely, like we came up with the name and then we kind of came up with the concept. And the whole point of it is like a pedigree is not a plan. Like you can say you are all kinds of different shit, but there's some like brass tack stuff that if you don't know how to do this, like you're screwed. And so hopefully we just carving out our own little piece of that pie. He's got enough credentials and I'm going to be his digital pimp.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you got some heavy hitters for that shit, dude. So
well, and you know, like Grande Thumb, the gun guy, you know what I'm talking about? Him and my brother were SEER instructor together.
Oh wow.
So I mean, like like it's slowly but surely, but that's why I started doing all this, and that is what will come of the future.
Why TikTok? Why TikTok? I mean, what the TikTok? Do you have other socials besides the TikTok, please? You do.
Well,
you do pretty well.
X.
I'm a follower.
I appreciate that. I'm on X too. 0827 is at the end of all my other social medias because that's 0827 is the day I got blown up. But by the way, just so everybody knows, I did not start calling myself Freebird. That was a name that was given to me in Afghanistan by my guys because they were like, Freeman can talk to birds, Freebird. And yeah, it also helped that, of course, I sound like I came from the school of Leonard Skinner. Yeah. And, you know, so I had Freebird written across my knuckles of my Oakley gloves and it stuck. So when I took that to TikTok, I had a story to tell behind it. So I was comfortable. All right, I'm taking on Freebird. Because, I mean, I was a little nervous. I was like, man, people are going to think I'm a douchebag. No. Like Freeman, Freebird.
No, I think you do pretty well on there, man. You're pretty, I mean, I know it's recorded, but you do some pretty, I mean, you're a good speaker and everything. So I think it's pretty, I mean, you got like, 100 and something thousand followers or something.
I have 140 some odd thousand followers. Yeah. And last year I had 32 million views.
Jeez, nice. Dude.
Good Lord.
All my content is original. It's over a minute. Like, it's all mine. Like, I don't steal other people's shit. And the majority of the videos that I have posted are typically a one-take video.
Yeah.
Like, I just, whatever it is that I want to talk about, I'm like, that's what I'm going to talk about. And then I just country twang my ass out there as much as I can. And I have wanted to get more into, like, what I just told you all. You know what I mean? Because I've realized that I've told that story a few times, like on live and stuff, about getting in trouble and just being like that broken, shattered person and coming out of it. And yeah, that shit flops. They're like, no, shut up. We don't want to hear about that.
Yeah.
You keep that sad bullshit to yourself.
Yeah. I think it's
my bad.
I think it's different platforms too, man. I think TikTok's different than X, and X is different than Facebook, and they're all different. How you want to approach those stories, man. But I think you got a
Instagram is probably where, like Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep. Be free under mutts.
Hell yeah.
brother and me are both airborne qualified. He is obviously in the SOCOM world, so that's the dagger. The fist with the lightning bolts is me, the fister, and then my brother-in-law being an ER physician, that's the snake around it.
All right.
And that stands for, so in Latin, if you notice, that spells dead. In English, it spells lead because it is learn, excel, adapt, defend. Because you've got to learn what you're doing, you got to excel at it, you got to adapt to your environment, and then you got to be able to defend yourself. And if you do not do that, then you will be dead. So you can either lead or you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
So
it's a true statement, man. That's pretty badass, dude. You sound like you got a, man, that's like a pretty badass, like I said earlier, it's pretty, you got some heavy hitters and pretty badass family, dude.
Yeah.
Your family's pretty badass, bro. From your wife to you got a
we are, we're resilient.
Yeah.
I think that is the word that we're supposed to use these days, resilient.
Yeah.
And, you know, more than anything, I will say that almost 13 years of sobriety now, every day I have been sober, it has gotten easier to deal with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I became the person that can choke through telling that story. And I just want you to know that was a bitch telling you all that. And I know I didn't need to get into it, and I didn't have to get into it. And I mean, shit, I don't care if you cut that part out of it. But first off, nobody's going to Tim Kennedy me. You know, like there was some shit to it that like I just needed to fill in some parts of my story. And, you know, you can't explain that shit in 2 seconds on a video like that. So
no. Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think we keep it. We don't usually do a lot of editing, Justin. I think we keep it in there, man, because like, it's got to be like people got to see it. You know, like it's got to be, and it's something for you that you're finally airing it out a little bit. You're getting it out there. It should feel like you're already sober. You're doing well. There's a little.
It's a huge part of your story.
There's some stuff that's on your shoulders. It's a little bit of a weight. You're kind of getting that out there to everybody, and man, I don't know. I'm proud of you, man. I've just met you tonight, and I'm saying, but I like hearing your story, man. I'm proud of you, man. And and if you ever need anything, if you ever head down in the dumps, man, you got my number. You know, you give me a call, man, and I can give you like I don't know. I mean, I don't know you guys said for nothing, but I can give you my honest assessment of things, and I'm here to help you. And there's a lot of guys out there that are, brother.
Yes.
And
that's that part of learning that veteran. You know what I mean? Like you are Jerry. You are you are a former sergeant major, but at the brass tacks of it now, we are both just two civilians that have been through a lot of shit, and we can't be this way with all the other civilians. So we got to be this way with each other.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's the thing, right? And TikTok's a shit show right now, and I would tell you that. And it's a shit show of veterans tearing veterans tearing active duty tearing down veterans, you name it. And we don't need that shit right now, man. I go on some of these lives, and it's a fucking shit show, right? Like, we need to be at the point now where like helping each other out with guys like you that are struggling. I've had my struggles. Trust me, Chris has had some serious struggles, right? So. Like, we're not going to do it. We're not going to go anywhere tearing each other apart, bro. Like, fucking talk to each other. Like, we have so many people. Just because you hang up the uniform doesn't mean it stops. Like, whatever happened to you, man, you got people that you can reach out anywhere to talk to. My circle has gotten bigger, honestly. My connections, now I know you. I've known a lot, guys. And now it's gotten bigger since I've been out of the Army. So.
And we really gonna get busy because I really know some dudes.
Man.
So, but Mike Narez, look up Mike Narez, and if you want to get him onto the podcast, like I'll talk to him. And like I told him that I was doing the podcast, but Mike Narez with Freedom Alliance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, brother. Please. We're not like. Justin, you just sat through this with us, man. We're not the scripted fucking podcasts out there. We just listen. And we like to bullshit with you, and we like to talk to y'all. I mean, if a guy like that wants to come on, sure. Like we are, you know, you could be just a guy. You could be the E4 man. Like we've said this before. You tell your story. Come on here. We don't give a shit. You know, we prefer the conventional side. To be honest with you, we love those guys. That's a story that we want to tell. The SF got plenty of podcasts to tell their story. We've had some.
They really do.
We've had some great SF guys on here, but they were prior conventional guys before that. So, you know,
all of us brag babies, you know.
Yeah, it's like a cult, bro.
So Mike he was the weapons squad leader for our 3rd platoon. Every person that we lost in Afghanistan was from his squad.
Yeah.
Two Purple Hearts, big. I mean, kind of like me, you know, like in Afghanistan after that happened with him, he was like, "Get me out of here."
Yeah.
And so, and I will say this too is like, you all made me comfortable enough to get into that part of my story. I didn't know if I was going to when we started this.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, you two could have literally just been like, really?
Oh,
you know, like completely change the demeanor. And I would have been like, shit. And I was like, I got to tell this part of my story because it is like, and I have had every one of my NCOs from that time at Fort Bragg when I was like all broken and they have all called and apologized to me.
That's awesome.
Like they were just like, one of them went through the exact same thing. He went to group and became an FO for group, like just not a Green Beret, but just a fister, and was going to go to JTAC. The deployments and the booze caught up to him, and he went through almost the identical thing that I did. And he was like, brother, I'm sorry. He was like, I just didn't know. And so that's the thing is like, it has to be spoken about. I don't know what the fix is, but it's got to be spoken about because like that guilt from 2010 to 13 is what almost like put me under, you know, like that. Started in Afghanistan. Like, holy shit, what have I done?
Yeah. No, man, like I said earlier, bro, like we went to the, you know, we'll get ready to close this out real quick and we can talk offline a little bit more too. But I tell you, like, you know, going through that, I've lost so many friends to suicide, dude. You know, Chris has too, man. And, you know, just listening to your story, right? It's like, it makes you wonder, like, you know, how we approached our soldiers that were not just wounded, but wounded in the head a little bit. You know, I don't want to make that sound terrible, but they had their internal battles. Like, how many of those people could we have just helped with the proper leadership engagement, right? Not like the old school push them off to the side, but like taking that time to figure out what the fuck was really happening with them, right? And I think, like you said, you know, we can relate to what they're doing because during GWAT, dude, it was you don't have time for shit. You had to keep doing what you had to do. But if we would have just stepped back a little bit, like take a step fucking back, someone has to say, no fucking, sir, we got to kind of, you know, somebody, I don't know who it is, has to say, hey, we got to step back and just reevaluate this again. Yes, like Chris says, there's got to be some punishment, obviously, right? But, you know, just, you know, looking back on it, I think when you told your story, people look back on that and go, hey, man, like in the future, like reevaluate how you kind of approach people. Right, you know, leadership wise, you know, so I don't know.
And I think the hardest thing is like everything that happened to me in Fort Bragg, like I was a broken human being, but those are not the guys that I was broken with. Like they didn't see me get broken. My guys from Colorado had a little bit of a different take on it. No matter what the leadership railroaded through, they had a different look at it. They were like, ugh, like, you know, that kind of that same mind frame you're talking about. But at the end of the day, it just was what it was.
It is what it is.
And I
fucking say it.
And like, there's definitely no time that I have ever tried to build a voodoo doll and like, you know, stabbed out the battalion commander or anything.
Yeah, but see that's the thing too. A lot of you guys like you that went through that stuff just ride it. Right, just ride it, man.
Yeah.
You know, they've you know humbled about it, and they just, hey, man, it is what it is, and I ride it. You know, so I don't know, But yeah, do you have anything else, Justin, you kind of want to put out, man, before we close this out, or is there anything else you specifically want to say? Or
No, I mean, I appreciate doing this. Like, I'm so glad that I got to finally just tell my story from kind of start to finish. Like,
yeah,
I hadn't had an opportunity to do it, no matter how many followers I got. Like, I just hadn't been able to do this. So,
Yeah.
It's going to be great to put the story out there together.
Yeah. And again, man, for us, we'll do this for 2 followers. We'll do this with 2 people. But getting guys like you on here to talk.
And I'll get you some cool guests. Like, I'll be worth it. Don't worry. I'll make up for it.
No. What I'm saying
it's not even, honestly, not even what we're doing this for.
It's not what we're doing. I'm saying we do this, like, if there's 2 people watching this, and that's fine with us. Like, as long as we get people on here to, like, can tell their story and get in front of the camera like you and haven't told that story before, it's good for them, man. So, like, it is what it is. We're not petty about any of that stuff, and we're doing this for our reasons too. And just a little essay though, because we did start this for the conventional side too, Justin, and we also started this because me and Chris were battalion command teams for the last deployment in HKIA. So like we originally started that for their story, and we're going to continue telling that story too, but then the conventional side came up and then the veteran stuff. So I appreciate you coming on here, man, and I'm truly honored to sit here and listen to what you've been through. And I know it was hard, dude. I know it, and I appreciate you kind of airing it out. So and you're always welcome to come back on, man. Like, if you want to tell more, you guys can. So and
the one other thing that I will say too is that I didn't mention this. When I went on mid-tour leave from Afghanistan, I went home on Christmas.
Yeah.
And January the 3rd, 2010, we lost 4 dudes. I got back on a plane and went back to Afghanistan 3 days later and went right back down into that AO. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like,
no, the struggles of G-Waters, bro. Chris, you got anything you want to kind of say to Justin?
I just want to thank you. Think for a second how long it took you to be able to tell that story. Not today on the show, but just in life, right? Hopefully somebody out there hears this story, whether that's through our small shitty little podcast or through your followers now on TikTok. Jerry mentioned one of our buddies now works down there at Fort Benning, told his story almost identical to some of the things that you went through. One of my good friends, Eric Phillips, talked on the podcast about we were in the 173rd together, decided to take the walk, put on the Green Beret, transitioned over to warrant officer in the Green Beret, and then ended up, car upside down on the middle of the road, and was like, you know what? I got to change my life. And you are not alone. They are not alone. All of you out there, you're not alone. Please reach out. I'm going to put a plug out here for all the veterans out there. If you feel like you need somebody to talk to and you don't have anybody, 988, press 1, and that's the veteran crisis line, please. Okay. Don't do anything stupid. Talk to somebody, get some help. Okay. Justin, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story the way you did, and trusting us, quite frankly, to share your story. So thank you. I will put out some other stuff at the end, Jerry, but to Justin, again, thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Floor is yours, Justin. You can close it out, buddy.
The biggest thing that I hope anybody can take from this is the reason that I told my story is because I just want people to know that, like, the judgment zone is null. Like, I've done it. Like, I screwed up. All this shit back here is blingy and shiny. And for the dude that sees that might have went through the same thing that I went through, he doesn't say anything to me because he thinks I'm only this.
Yep.
But I'm not. So
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
said.
Well said, man. It's a facade, right? Like it's, you know, guys, you see a lot of guys now putting their uniforms up behind them. And so a lot of TikToks now, but you know, it's more than just that, you know. So
Guys
guys
got
are
to know,
struggling.
like there's a broken human being right here, and all this shit back here was over the course of 4 years, and now we are in 2026. There was a lot of shit that had to happen for me to get here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys just got to understand you're not alone in your war, whether it was overseas or in your head.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys, we're gonna close this out. So I appreciate it. You know, we'll get this out here soon. If you look here, please come on and check out our partners that you know that have chose to jump on our train and kind of help us get our information out and you know for us to do the same for them. So these are all legit organizations that either give back to the veteran community or support. Obviously, landmine removal is you know, Ryan Henderson, and he's doing the thing across the world. He does stuff for veterans, he hires veterans, and he does a lot of stuff in Ukraine. The New England Battalion is a veteran hockey organization that you know is amazing. It gets you know gets some guys focused on other things and playing some hockey like I did for a while. So, Chosen Flags, Why Not Survivor, great organization. Please reach out to them. And then Warriors Crown is, you know, Keith Jenkins, old retired sergeant major. It's a veteran owned company that, you know, it is doing some amazing stuff for the community. So thank you guys. And, you know, hey, we'll talk to you guys later. Please like and subscribe all our stuff because it truly helps us out, man. It really does. It helps us get the message out and, you know, hopefully spread the word for us. So thank you guys so much. And we'll talk to you guys later. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.